Greetings and salutations of everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is Open Mic. What is Open Mic? Well, I'm awfully glad that you asked. To see every day on the John Campea Show, Monday through Friday, we take live questions near the end of the show. But here on the weekends, all we do is take your live questions, and that's what we're going to do here today. And I just wanted to ask everybody in the chat, if I'm looking like, I had to swap out a cable because I was getting some weird audio stuff going on just before we started the show. How's the audio doing, everybody? Is everybody doing okay? I guess the audio's doing all right. I'm going to just assume audio's doing all right. Yep, the audio's doing okay. Okay, well then, let's get on with it, guys. Listen, before we get into the live questions, something we should talk about here, kind of off the top of the show, and that is this. Now, with everything that's been going on with the crisis and the quarantines and all that kind of stuff, obviously a lot of movies have been going directly to streaming. Well, not so much directly to streaming, but they had like 1 week in theater, then they go to streaming. We've heard a lot of movies getting their dates pushed and all that kind of stuff. And for the most part, it's understandable. Like, we figured out why. Like, there is this thing called the theatrical window that says a movie's got to play in theaters, and that's where studios make all their money. Studios make all their money in the theaters. That's how they make their money. They want their movies in the theaters. And then the theaters say, okay, we will play your movies in our theaters, but you've got to give us a roughly 3-month window before you put your movies out on home video. So, there's a good buffer there. So that's called the theatrical window. All right. We've been talking a lot about that lately. Well, we've been seeing, obviously, a bunch of movies breaking the theatrical window. For example, The Invisible Man is now available on home streaming. You can get Onward available on home streaming. So how are they able to do that? How are they able to violate the theatrical window? Well, there's two main reasons why, and we've talked about this on the show, but I'll just highlight it here quickly. Reason number one is I've been told that the theaters, the NATO or North American theater owners, that includes Regal, Cinemark, AMC, things like that, they have no objection because they understand the second point. Their theaters are closed right now. So if the theaters can't be open to fulfill their side of the theatrical window deal to play the movies, well, then the studios have to be free to play their movies somewhere, right? So, and also if you're a studio, you're thinking to yourself, well, we're going to lose money. The studios know they're going to lose money, period. But we can try to mitigate our losses a little bit if we can put it out on streaming right now, because they can't re-release it later and mount another marketing campaign and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, so that's turned the question to, well, what about movies that haven't yet started playing in theaters? Movies like Trolls World Tour, Trolls 2, the animated film, Trolls 2. Trolls 2 made the decision to just skip their theatrical release and go straight to home streaming. Could that be the beginning of a trend? And the answer to that question is no, that's not the beginning of a trend, because nothing that happens right now in this first ever extremely unique situation that we're in with the coronavirus and everything, nothing that happens in this period of time, either good or bad, can be considered a trend. These are very, very extreme and unique situations that we're under. But also, for Trolls, they had to look at the reality of the financials of this. Number one is Trolls World Tour, before they pulled it from the release schedule, Trolls World Tour was tracking to make far less than half of what the first Trolls movie made on its opening weekend. It was only projecting, whereas the first Trolls movie, I believe, made somewhere around $43 million opening weekend, Trolls 2, before the coronavirus stuff, was only tracking to open at about 17 to 20 million. So well below half of what the other one did. So they knew they were going to take a bath. They knew putting it off from when they had already started their marketing could hurt. So they made the decision for their unique situation to put Trolls 2 directly to VOD. And that probably wasn't a terrible idea. I don't know that I would have done it, but it probably wasn't a terrible idea. Well, all that set up is to talk about Wonder Woman. What about a movie like Wonder Woman? Well, what I would have told you a few weeks ago was that never, ever, ever will you see I mean, anything can happen in 20 years, but I mean, in the immediate, never, ever, ever would you see a Warner Brothers take a Wonder Woman and put it directly to video on demand. There's no way. That's financial suicide. There's no chance, not at all. However, we are now living in a set of circumstances where all bets are off. I mean, even in these circumstances, there's still common sense, but it seems like with all the uncertainty and all the craziness going on right now, at any rate, for this finite period of time, it seems like all bets are off. So it is in that environment that the outlet, The Wrap isn't a top tier news outlet. Like, I don't put The Wrap on the same level as, say, Variety or The Hollywood Reporter, but they are a significant outlet. They are nonetheless a significant outlet, and they do break a lot of stuff. Well, anyway, let me get this up here. Let me bring this up here. So, let me just bring this up. So they put out a story. They put out a story yesterday that basically said, and I've now lost the webpage. Why have I lost the webpage? There we go. Okay. That is not The Wrap, although they're quoting The Wrap. Let me pull this up. Sorry, guys. Like, just before we started the show, I had to swap out a cable, and it caused a lot of problems with my system here. So I'm getting this all back up and running again. Okay, here we go. So The Wrap put up a story yesterday that said Warner Brothers is looking at pulling their theatrical release of Wonder Woman and doing it as a direct to streaming, putting it direct to streaming. Now, here's what they said so far. This is what's in the report here. And I'm starting right at the top here. With movie theaters closed across the globe for an indefinite period of time, Warner Brothers is discussing whether to take its upcoming DC Comics tentpole Wonder Woman 1984 directly to streaming and bypass theaters altogether, two knowledgeable individuals told The Wrap. Now, this is where it gets key here. The discussions are still preliminary and have remained close to Warner Brothers Group Chairman Toby Emmerich and his top advisors, according to one individual with knowledge of the conversation. Even director Patty Jenkins and producer Charles Roven have not been brought into the talks. Now, that's what they are claiming. That's what The Wrap is saying right now, that they have learned as an exclusive, that they've learned that this is going on, that Warner Brothers is actually, at this point, they are actually discussing the possibility of taking Wonder Woman 84, bypassing the theaters altogether, and putting it straight on to video. Now, like I said, The Wrap is not The Hollywood Reporter, and they're not Variety, and they're not Entertainment Weekly, but I would put them on that next tier under that. They're still a fairly reliable, fairly reputable source. So you got to take, if they're saying it, you got to at least give it some consideration. This isn't some Eddie Joe Fast gas stations movie blog.fart. This is The Wrap, right? So you've got to give it some consideration when they're saying, we've got two sources telling us that these conversations have happened. A couple things to keep in mind, though. Number one, they said those conversations were just preliminary at best. And number two, they said it's only a couple of people having these conversations. Granted, one is the top person, Toby Emmerich. But they said not even Patty Jenkins has been brought in, or Charles Roven, the producer, has even been brought into the discussions yet at this point. Not that the director has a say, but whatever. I think at this point, I got to say, I cannot believe that this has actually happened. So The Wrap wrote this, and you're seeing a lot of other sites run with the story, understandably so. It's coming from The Wrap. So you got sites like Comic Book and stuff like that are running this as a story. Understandably so. It's coming from The Wrap. So I have no problem with that. But I still highly, highly doubt that this would ever happen. Even in these ridiculous times that we're in. Even though we're in an era right now and in a period of time where I would say never on anything, all bets are off. All normalcy is done. There's no normal right now. Everything is crazy until we get out of this BS, right? But I would still say it is extremely, highly, highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. And the funny thing is, the Wrap themselves, to their credit, the Wrap, the outlet, of course, breaking the story, the Wrap, to their credit, are kind of laying out themselves why I think this is pretty unlikely at the same time. Now, I'm going to read a little bit at length here because this is a big story and I think it's worth reading a bit at length. So indulge me here, but follow along with me here. Charles Roven, the producer, and Jenkins would like to see the movie hit theaters in August, one insider said, but with so much uncertainty, Warner executives wonder if that's realistically a possibility amid a pandemic that has upended Hollywood and threatened to have long-term repercussions on the industry. Now, we go down here to this part. Warner president of domestic distribution, Jeff Goldstein, told The Wrap that there have not been any streaming discussions. We are looking to release the movie theatrically. That's our plan, he said. An individual close to the film confirmed that Jenkins has had no discussions with the studio about streaming. So The Wrap, on one hand, is telling us, we have got inside sources telling us that Warner Brothers is discussing releasing Wonder Woman straight to VOD. And to their credit, they also then include a quote here saying from the president of distribution saying, no, we're not. We are not planning to distribute this thing on VOD. Our plan is to put out in theaters. That's it. Now, the neat thing, too, is then producer Charles Roven, he also said this, and this is pretty poignant. He said, Roven, the producer, also dismissed the idea of a streaming-only release. It's ludicrous if you consider how big of a movie this is, he said in an interview. Everybody recognizes that. As interesting as streaming might be, if you want a huge global worldwide box office, you've got to release it in a movie theater. So that's important there too. Now let's keep reading this because this gets even more interesting. Indeed, analysts like Lightshed's Rich Greenfield have questioned whether video on demand could generate the kind of revenue and profits that studios typically see from the theatrical release of blockbusters like the Wonder Woman sequel. Patty Jenkins' 2017 original grossed $822 million on a budget of between $120 and $150 million. Now, this gets us into a broader conversation. There are still people out there that think just taking a big movie and just put it out on streaming can be profitable. There are still people that believe that. But I think this next little bit in this article from these industry people kind of lay out why it's not possible. Okay, so Wonder Woman made $822 million on that. Okay, keep following here. Be patient with this. This is good stuff, guys. This is good stuff. Follow along here. All right, the discussion at Warner to consider streaming follows Universal's decision last week to distribute Trolls World Tour directly on over-the-top platforms for a 48-hour rental fee of $20. That decision came amid the spread of the coronavirus panic, but while most U.S. theaters were still open and was initially intended as a day-to-date release timed with its opening in theaters, in the days since that decision, theater chains across the country have closed for an indefinite period of time because of the risk to public health. Now, I'm going to scroll down here a little bit and get to this one big part about what happens if you try to put it out on VOD. This is the neat part. But the math of a video on demand only release could be challenging. If the film skips theatrical release, Warner Brothers would have to hit tens of millions of streaming purchases to make the move financially worthwhile. A recent analysis by Greenfield showed that a billion-dollar grossing film normally produces $375 million in profit. Do you hear that? A billion-dollar film usually only produces about $375 million in profit. But traditional VOD could not generate that type of revenue or profit. According to Greenfield, replacing theatrical gross profit would require 16 to 21 million downloaded units sold for a $1 billion movie, assuming a charge of $30 to $40. And this is where it really comes home. Listen to this. He noted that the most profitable pay-per-view event in U.S. history was Mayweather versus Pacquiao fight in 2015, which grossed $400 million. That is not normal for a VOD release, for a pay-per-view, for a video on demand. That is the biggest in history. The most profitable video on demand pay-per-view event in U.S. history was the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight in 2015, which grossed $400 million from 4.4 million buys and charged $90 per buy. It's hard to imagine moviegoers even paying $30 to $40 for new release every month, so home video wouldn't even come close to that fight's revenue. And that fight's revenue was $400 million. Anyway, it just goes on and on to kind of lay out why the notion of remotely big films going directly to VOD is impractical at best and financial suicide at worst. Home video streaming does not produce that kind of revenue. It just doesn't. The Hollywood Reporter had their studio head roundtable. I've referenced this a few times. Came out about a month ago, where all the studio heads sat down, including Alan Horn, Toby Emmerich, the head person of the Netflix studio, the head person of the Amazon studio, the head person of Universal, all sat down at a big roundtable for a big interview. And it was fascinating. But one of the things that came out of that was the acknowledgement. It's like, yeah, home video stuff, it doesn't generate revenue. It really doesn't. Not like it used to back in the 90s and even the early 2000s. It just doesn't generate revenue like that. So while I could acknowledge and admit that Wonder Woman 84, it ain't impossible in this crazy period of time, in this insane, unprecedented period of time, is there some kind of reality in which cats and dogs live together in harmony and the craziest things happen, and we see Warner Brothers take the step of releasing Wonder Woman 84 on straight to video on demand? Any other time? Never. In this time, I can't say it's impossible, but it's highly unlikely. So yes, while The Wrap is claiming that they have two inside sources saying that Warner Brothers is actually discussing it and discussing the idea of a straight-to-VOD release for Wonder Woman, the president of domestic distribution for Warner Brothers is saying that's not true. The producer of Wonder Woman 1984 said that would be ludicrous. And the math just seems to suggest it would be impractical at best, financial suicide at worst. So it is something for us to keep an eye on. It's something for us to keep an eye on moving forward. But for now, I just got to say, I'm on the side that I don't believe this. I don't believe it. Like, I believe The Wrap had some people tell them that, but I just can't believe the information. It just doesn't seem to make any sense, even though we can't say that during this quarantine crisis that it's an absolute impossibility. It's crazy. I don't know, guys. What do you think? What do you think about this? I do not feel like it's likely. I don't feel like it's likely. How do you guys feel about it? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. Okay, guys, with that down, let's do what we're supposed to be doing here on Open Mic, which is taking your live questions. So there's two ways to send in live questions, guys. Number one, and the best way, and the way you can do 24/7 anytime you want, is to use the tip link that's in the top line of the description of this video, or while we're live, you can use the super chat feature right here on YouTube. So, okay, let's get over and let's get to it. Toilet paper writes, John, don't ever take me for granted. Who knows, maybe one day I could sprout legs and walk out on you, then hold myself ransom for a very specific breakdance video. Stay filthy, John. It is crazy seeing all these idiots hoarding toilet paper. By the way, did you see what Costco's doing? Because I guess now the shelves are starting to fill up again, right? The shelves are starting to fill up again. And so you got some people who went out there like a pack of idiots and bought 80 crates of toilet paper, and now they're trying to return them to get their money back because, you know, toilet paper is starting to appear back on the shelves again. And Costco is saying, nope, we're not taking returns on toilet paper. You idiots try to screw everybody else by hoarding it earlier. You keep it. You keep it and enjoy, Tux. You keep it and enjoy. I kind of like that. Fortunately for Ann and I, just before this thing all went sideways, we had done a big shopping run and we had a bunch of, you know, paper towels and toilet paper. So we're good for a few months. I mean, we were good. We just already had it in the house. So yay, toilet paper. All right. Edward O'Neill writes, one of two. Where we go? One of two. Regarding game movie adaptations from yesterday, I firmly believe that gamers, myself included, don't expect or want the game experience from a movie. That's what the actual game is for. When I go to a movie, I want a good story. That's where I think most game adaptations fail. They try to stick too close to the source material and forget that their core target audience are actual moviegoers that just so happen to game and not the other way around. Those who prefer gaming aren't the majority of goers. I think was there a part 3? No, that was 2-2. Aren't the goers. So I think that is correct half the time, because I can myself attest that there have been times that I've watched a video game movie and thought, oh my God, they are just trying too hard to make this like the game. And a game isn't a movie, and it doesn't work. But at the same time, I've also seen filmmakers take a lot of liberties with a game and not make it terribly similar to the game, and it still ended up being bad. I tried for a long time to kind of nail down what is the one root cause for every video game movie sucking, right? What is that one root cause? And I realized there isn't. There's no one root cause. I think sometimes you're right, Eduardo. I think sometimes it's because the filmmakers try to make a movie too much like the game and forget to adapt. But I think there's a lot of causes. And never forget, too, it's just a really hard thing to make a good movie. It's just really hard to make a good movie. Everybody thinks it's easy. It's not. It's next to impossible. It's super hard to make a good movie, which is why we should really appreciate it when good movies get made. But I don't think there's that one magic bullet. You know what I mean? So what you're saying is making a lot of sense, but I think it's more than that. I don't think there's one magic bullet to it. Anyway, thanks for sharing your thoughts, Eduardo. All right. Timbula the Spider Monkey writes, some recommendations. Number 1, The Changeling. Ooh, that one's creepy. Number 2, The Beyond, also creepy. Number 3, Tenebrae. I gotta admit, I'm not familiar with that one. Number 4, Psycho 2. Also creepy. Number 5, Razorback. Number 6, Fright Night. Number 7, The Fly. Number 8, Hellraiser. Number 9, The Certain and the Rainbow. And number 10, Society. Oh my God, I have never heard anybody reference Society. This is a first. This has never happened in the history of the show, ladies and gentlemen. I have never had anybody ever on my AMC days, in my movie blog days, in my Collider days, I have never had anybody reference the movie Society from 1989. And I feel a little bit of shame that I even know what it is. I saw it when I was much, much younger, just because it had boobies in it. Boobies, I'm in. I mean, that was pretty much my mentality for most of my life. Anyway, I have no regrets. So there's this movie called Society, right? Where basically this kid realized there's this rich family, and it's hard to put into words, but these rich people have these orgies. And at these orgies, they start to feed on like poor people or the lower class people. And there's this one incredible scene, and by incredible, I mean so bad, you never forget it. There's a scene as they've got this one poor guy, you know, pinned down, all these rich half-naked people pinning them down. They start sucking on his like nipple and sucking on his neck. It's like, what's going on? And then their faces all like are like alien-like attached to them and like sucking the juice out of them or something. And then one guy comes along and says, I'll never forget this. Let's get to the bottom of this, and takes his arm and rams it up the guy's ass until his hand comes out of the guy's mouth. I wish I was making this up. So now you see why nobody in the history of my movie punditry career, from the movie blog to For Your Consideration to AMC to Collider to here, have I ever had anybody reference Society. I thought I was like the only person in the world who even knew it existed. So now whenever you hear somebody say, let's get to the bottom of this, you're going to have nightmares. You're going to have bad thoughts. Anyway, I think there might be a theme there. A little bit of a theme there, Timbula the Spider Monkey. A little bit of a theme. All right, let's move on here. James Durden writes, Hey, John, I just read on Yahoo, The Way Back, Bloodshot, Just Mercy, and Birds of Prey all release on VOD on March 24th, and Sonic the Hedgehog on March 31st. Not really a question, but some might like to know that they have these options while stuck at home. And again, it's just this weird, crazy situation. These are all movies that should not be coming out on VOD because of the theatrical window. However, the movie theaters are closed and not able to fulfill their obligations of the theatrical window, giving those movies a place to play. Again, nobody's fault, but the studios are left with a situation where it's just bad. It's a bad situation. All these movies are losing money. Birds of Prey had already pretty much done its theatrical run anyway, so it's not a big deal. Same with Just Mercy. It already pretty much finished the theatrical run, all that kind of stuff. Way Back wasn't making much money anyway. Maybe it'll get a little bit better. But I mean, it's a bad situation. It just is. This is just the studios trying to make the best of a bad situation, and it just kind of makes sense. Under these ridiculous circumstances, it just kind of makes sense. All right, Sam O'Neill writes, Ferris Bueller is cooler. Somebody was writing in yesterday asking if we thought Ferris Bueller or Marty from Back to the Future was cooler. And we both said, even though we like Back to the Future more than Ferris Bueller's Day Off, we thought Ferris Bueller was cooler. Ferris Bueller is cooler. He steals a Ferrari. However, Back to the Future is a better movie, in my opinion. Also, unpopular opinion, I love all the Transformers movies. That being said, my first introduction to them were the movies. Well, listen, you know how I feel about the Transformers movies. I really like the first one. I really, really like that first Michael Bay's Transformers movie. I thought all the rest of them were utter gutter trash. Just complete gutter trash. But all films are subjective. And films hit us in different ways. And if you watch those Transformers movies and you got some fun out of them and you got some joy out of them, then that's awesome. I celebrate that. I mean, I can't share that experience. I wish I could share that experience, but I'm happy that you get that experience out of it. So don't you apologize for liking a movie you like. There are no apologies necessary. All right, next up, Friendly Quesadilla writes, Hey, John, love your show. Thank you so much, Friendly Quesadilla. So I know it's not exactly movie news, but did you see the rumors from Slash Film that there's going to be a live-action Ahsoka Tano? We talked about this on the companion video yesterday. A live-action Ahsoka Tano in Season 2 of The Mandalorian. I know you don't like her very much, but I'm excited. I don't know what Wilthie is. Anyway, so we did talk about this. It's no longer rumor. Slash Film, who's a pretty reliable site. I like Slash Film. So Slash Film reported, were the first ones to come out and report that Ahsoka Tano was going to make an appearance. It's probably just going to be for an episode, but is going to make an appearance, and that Rosario Dawson, who is just delicious. There's nothing about Rosario Dawson I don't love. Anyway, Rosario Dawson, oh my God, Rosario Dawson in Clerks 2 is the ultimate dream girl. Rosario Dawson in Clerks 2 is like the ultimate dream girl for nerdy or geek guys. I mean, anyway. And of course she's great in Daredevil and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, she's great in all that too. But she's just delicious. Anyway. So my reaction to it was mixed in the sense that everybody knows I don't like the Ahsoka Tano character. And it is what it is. I don't like the character. I think it's a bad character. But there are a lot of people who love the character, and that's great. It's like the Transformers movies. I hate those movies. To me, they're gutter trash. But if you like them, that's awesome. I'm glad you like them. That's great. And I think Ahsoka Tano's a gutter trash character. But a lot of people like her, and that's great. I'm glad they like that character. That's awesome that they like that character. Terrific. So, on the one hand, everybody knows I don't like the Ahsoka Tano character. So I'm like, why are you ruining Mandalorian by bringing in Ahsoka Tano, right? But even I, the most salty and crusty guy when it comes to the Ahsoka Tano character, even I gotta say, Rosario Dawson playing that character? I mean, I still don't like the character and all. But how can you not like that? That is, I don't like to use the word perfect when talking about casting very often, but that's perfect casting. It's perfect casting. Not only is she, like, in my opinion, a world-class actress, not only does she off camera carry a lot of geek cred, not only is she a fanatical Star Wars fan, but she's just perfect for that role. It's great. And like, if somebody like me, the most salty and crusty guy on this planet when it comes to that Ahsoka, who cares what her name is? What that character, the most salty and crusty guy in the world about that character, if I go, holy shit, that's really good casting. I mean, how much better can it get? How much better can it get? And I'll tell you what else. Somebody, I can't remember, somebody wrote to me and said, you know, John, with Rosario Dawson being Ahsoka Tano, and we know that Rebels ends with Ahsoka and Sabine hanging out, and we know that WWE superstar Sasha Banks is in the next season of Mandalorian. Remember that? They announced that Sasha Banks was going to be in the new season of Mandalorian, but we never knew who her character was. So I had a few people write to me and say, what would the possibility be? I mean, if Rosario Dawson, and by the way, Slash Films report has since been confirmed. It has been confirmed. So the question gets, and it's a fair question, rises. If Rosario Dawson is going to be Ahsoka Tano, what are the chances that Sasha Banks' character is Sabine? What if she's Sabine? And you know what? I mean, from a physical appearance point of view, yeah, I could see that. But here's why I don't think that's what it's going to be. Here's why I don't think we're going to see Sasha Banks as Sabine. Because Sabine is a major character and Sasha Banks is not an actress. I'm cool with non-actors getting some limited speaking roles where there's a lot of physicality and all. I'm all cool with that. And I think that's what we're going to see Sasha Banks do. I think we're going to see Sasha Banks come in there, have a couple of really cool one-liners, have some real physicality in it and do a good job. I don't know that I could see them taking a non-actress and like disrespecting a character like Sabine by just giving the role to a non-actress, especially if you're going to give a role like Ahsoka Tano to an actress of the caliber of a Rosario Dawson, right? So, I mean, I don't know. Anything's possible. Maybe she is Sabine and she only has one line in it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a possibility, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but who knows? Who knows? Anything's possible. Got to keep your eyes open for it. Anyway. Okay, next up, Roberto Martin Catoni writes, thank you for the amazing show. Oh, thank you so much for the kind words, Roberto. It has inspired me to go into filmmaking, and it's my 17th birthday today. Happy birthday, dude. And I finally finished my first short film script. Also, someone in my school had COVID-19, so now I'm quarantined in my house now, but I have birthday cake. Well, listen, the great equalizer in life is, but I have birthday cake. That tends to make everything better. And you know what? Don't worry about being stuck at home. Almost everybody's stuck at home for the most part. So hang tight at home. It's the best place for you right now anyway. You have that birthday cake. But you know what, Roberto? It does bring up a little bit of a conundrum that we are facing in the Campea household here. Ann and I were speaking of Sasha Banks in the WWE, Ann and I were supposed to fly for her birthday coming up in 2 weeks. We were supposed to fly to Florida because Ann, for her birthday, wanted to go to WrestleMania and go to Disney World and Universal Florida and stuff like that. So we were going to go to WrestleMania, and now we obviously had to cancel those plans. But then Ann brought up yesterday, it's like, wait a minute, what do we do for my birthday? I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know. So I think what we're going to do is have a big D&D game, Dungeons and Dragons game. And we're going to do it over probably Zoom. Either do it over Zoom or Hangouts or something like that and have a big D&D game and just all hang out together virtually. So I think that's probably what we're going to do. Oh, but that reminds me. Dungeons and Dragons. Listen, guys. I'm going to be doing a little bit of a giveaway because, you know, I often mention on here, we play Dungeons and Dragons. Ann plays in several Dungeons and Dragons groups. She's actually our group's Dungeon Master. And I've had a lot of people write to me whenever I talk about the fact that we play D&D, asking me, man, I mean, I've always wanted to get involved. I've always wanted to try playing D&D and blah, blah, blah. Well, here's what we're going to do. This week on the John Campea Show, thanks to the good folks at Hasbro, I've got my hands on a bunch of these Dungeons and Dragons essential kits. And this is basically everything you need to learn and get started. So you've got some maps, some of the basic. Now you could, and if you like it, you can then go up and buy the full regular player's handbook and the full regular Dungeon Master guide if you want. But this is something that can get you started. And also got a set of dice in here for you. So I've got like 4 or 5 of these. And this week on the John Campea Show, I'm going to do a giveaway and give some of these away because I know a lot of people have been wanting to get involved and jump in and give a shot to playing it. So I'm going to give a few of these away this week. So keep your eyes open for the John Campea Show this week, and we'll announce how we're going to arrange the giveaway for it. But anyway, yeah. Anyway, Roberto, happy birthday, brother. I hope you have a good one. At least you got cake. Okay, next up, we got Anthony Lucalano who writes, just finished watching Once Upon a Time in America. Anthony has been going through all these classic Westerns, which again, if you're stuck at home right now, this is a good time to get caught up on some of those classics you've never seen, especially Westerns. Not a lot of people have seen the old classic Westerns. I'm glad Anthony's been doing that. I just finished Once Upon a Time in America earlier this morning, and I really liked it. Well, I didn't end up loving Once Upon a Time in America as much as some of Leone's other movies. It still cemented him as one of my favorite directors of all time. Sergio Leone, I mean, you got to get in there and watch some of these movies. Whether they're the Clint Eastwood ones or not, I mean, the Clint Eastwood ones are a really good place to start. With The Man with No Name and things like that. It's a really, really good place to start. But there's so much others in there too, and I'm glad Anthony's kind of been charting the path for everybody to go and check those out. So I'm glad you're enjoying that. Anthony then writes, next up, I'm watching one of my top 10 films of all time, Peter O'Toole, one of the greatest cinematography exhibitions of all time in cinematic history, Lawrence of Arabia, The Great Escape, and The Bridge on the River Kwai. Bridge on the River Kwai, by the way, with Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's right, Alec Guinness. Before he was Obi-Wan Kenobi, people knew him as from Bridge on the River Kwai. It is an absolutely fantastic, fantastic movie. Absolutely should go and check that one out. Samuel O'Neill writes, researching Man of Steel, how the actual heck do people think this is a bad movie? God, it's such a brilliant story. First 30 minutes is a story of a boy who has no idea who or what he is and struggling to be himself. And, listen, Samuel, brother, listen, you are preaching to the choir, my brother. You are preaching to the choir. Man of Steel is the most underrated comic book film ever. It's all subjective. It's just my opinion, obviously, but I'm going to state my opinion. It is the most underappreciated, misunderstood comic book movie of all time. It is a masterpiece of the genre. I'm not saying it's a masterpiece on the same level as Godfather, but it's a masterpiece of the genre. It is a masterpiece of comic book movie filmmaking. God, I love that movie. And, it's one of those movies where the more and more I watch it, the more and more I like it. And I remember John Schnepp had the same thing. Like, he saw it the first time. He liked it. He liked it. But then we did a commentary video on Man of Steel. So we sat down and watched it again. So it was me, Schnepp, Christian Harloff, and I think Mark Ellis. But anyway, so we sat down to watch Man of Steel again. And when it was done, like, Schnepp was like, that was way better the second time I watched it. That was way better the next time I watched it. And then I watch it again and I like it more. So yeah, preaching to the choir, brother. But listen, again, all film's subjective. Not everybody's going to like it, and that's perfectly fair. But yeah, man, I love that movie. I freaking love that movie. Anyway, Robert Tari writes, could you imagine if this virus hit the same time last year? Oh my God. With all those movies like Endgame, Toy Story 4, Aladdin, Spider-Man, Lion King, Frozen, Star Wars, all being affected, Disney would have been in serious trouble. Yeah. But, Disney would have been fine. Disney would have been fine. They've been making so much money for so long. If they had a really terrible 1 year, they'd survive it. I mean, it wouldn't have been fun for them, but they would have survived it, even though it would not have been fun in the least. But I think more for us fans, because like all those movies were billion-dollar films. That means a lot of us went to go see those movies. And like, okay, so yeah, it's hitting right now. All right, Invisible Man. It's great. Invisible Man's great, but not a ton of people were going to go see it. The Way Back, not a lot of people were going to see it. A lot of people think Sonic was this huge mega hit. It did well. Sonic did well, but it's not like it made $500 million. It didn't make $400 million. So yeah, it's hitting now. And so I think it's actually hitting in a time when it's having a minimal effect on our movie-going habits. But oh my God, Robert, you're right. If that hit last year right in the heart of when all these like billion-dollar films are coming out, we as film fans, there are bigger problems. Yes, first world, this is sickly. We're talking about in the realm of movie fandom. As movie fans, it would have been a pain. Oh my God, it would have been a pain. All right, next up, Peter Pablo Reviews writes, 2021 Oscars. Elizabeth Moss wins Best Lead Actress. Absolutely. Bloodshot wins Best Special Effects. Yes. The Invisible Man wins Best Cinematography. Probably. Onward wins Best Animated. And The Gentleman Best Picture. I'm for that. And until next time, Bob Iger. Bob Iger. Love you, Pisces. Thank you so much. Pisces was, of course, my breakdancing name. Yeah, I mean, then you can't look over Ben Affleck. True. Yeah. Honestly, I think if I had to give away Best Picture of the Year right now, I'm giving it to The Gentleman. Not everybody loves The Gentleman like I love The Gentleman. And by the way, that's another movie coming on to VOD. Actually, I believe it's out on VOD right now. So you can watch The Gentleman with Matthew McConaughey, Colin Farrell. It's bloody brilliant. I love it. Now, but you got to understand that I was kind of predisposed to it because I am a huge Guy Ritchie fan and his earlier style of like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch. Snatch is actually in my top 20 all-time favorite films. And The Gentleman is really a return to form for him. I'm not as big of a fan of Rock and Rolla, but this to me was a real return to form for him, especially coming off of Aladdin, which I also loved Aladdin, but it was so different for him. I really love this movie. So for me, Best Picture, if the Academy Awards were right now, Best Picture, it probably is going to The Gentleman. Best Picture is probably going to The Gentleman. All right. Russell Amador writes, hey, John, after watching Endgame for the 100th time last night, we're almost certain we need to find the stones and undo this COVID-19. I can't wait till we get past all this and are able to enjoy the little things again, such as movie or gym outings. And absolutely. And look, we say that understanding that this is a situation that is not like some trite little thing. This is a situation that isn't just affecting our movie-going habits. We understand that. There are much bigger problems. There are people going through legitimate hardship and pain and suffering right now. Absolutely. But I know, Russell, when you say that, we're talking within the context of what we are here to discuss as film fans. So we understand all that, and that's much, much more important. That bigger issue stuff is much more important. But yes, as a film fan community, it is also on a smaller, less important scale, it is also a pain in the ass. Even for those, because I think, I think a lot of us don't realize how much hardship and pain and suffering this is causing for a lot of people. But even outside of that, even just in the best case scenario for a lot of other people, just causing a major inconvenience to lifestyle and employment and all that kind of stuff. And amen, Russell. Cannot wait to get this BS behind us, dude. Cannot wait to get this. And the faster everybody starts doing smart things, not like those jackalopes down in Florida going out and partying on the beaches, you fucking mouth breathers. Anyway, I'm going to resist to say what I really want to say. But the sooner all of us do the smart stuff, stay inside. If you're going to go out, avoid other people. Don't go into gatherings. Don't have a bunch of buddy overs. One or two friends that maybe are quarantining themselves as well. That's okay. But don't have one friend over one night and another friend over another night and another friend over another night, and then by the end of the week you've had 18 people in your house. Don't go to the grocery store unless you absolutely need to. Of course, if you absolutely need to, then you do. But just the sooner we all start doing the smart things, the sooner we get this BS behind us and we can get back to normal. And it's just going to take all of us to do that. Anyway, thanks for writing that in, Russell Amador. All right. Stern Teacher writes, critics' consensus text ruins impartialness of Rotten Tomatoes. Oh, I disagree. Not at all. So basically, if I understand what you're talking about, so critic consensus, let me go over to Rotten Tomatoes here. And bring up a movie. So we'll bring up Jumanji Next Level, right? So if I know what you're talking about, so here's what she said. What do you mean critic consensus? So if you look on a Rotten Tomatoes page, like here we're on Jumanji The Next Level, and look right above my head here, you see that thing, critics consensus. What they try to do is they basically give a short outline, if you will. A short outline that kind of highlights what the basic feeling is. Like, they do the hard work. They do the work of like going through a lot of the reviews and everything. They say, okay, this is basically the general consensus that you get. So here for Jumanji, it's writing like many classic games, Jumanji: The Next Level retains core core components of what came before while adding enough fresh bits to keep things playable. Okay, so that's basically positive. It's good, but I don't think that does anything at all. Like putting a little summary up there. And by the way, this little critic consensus, most people don't read it. Most people don't read it. What most people are looking for is that number. They're just looking for that number. You know, is it positive or is it negative? You know, what, generally speaking, so 71% of the critics liked it. That's what they're going there to find out. So I don't agree, Stern Teacher, that the critic consensus ruins the impartialness of Rotten Tomatoes. No, it doesn't, because it doesn't change the actual critic score. And all the consensus is somebody just giving somebody a quick one, like 2 or 3 line summary of, generally speaking, here's what kind of the thought amongst the critics are, but it doesn't change the number. And really what most people only care about is the number. So I disagree. I don't think that ruins the impartialness of Rotten Tomatoes in the least. That's just my opinion on that. But you have your opinion, and your opinion is no less or more valid than mine. All right. Undead Sick 83 writes, hey, John, I just read the news about Rosario Dawson being cast as Ahsoka Tano for season 2 of The Mandalorian, and I'm not sure how I feel about this. I really wanted them to keep Mandalorian its own thing. I agree. I do agree. So I hope we don't get into the whole search for Ezra Bridger thing, but if they make her a guardian of the Wills who guards the journals and Mando goes there to find out more about Baby Yoda, I guess I could live with that thoughts. Yeah, look, and this isn't even an Ahsoka Tano thing. You guys know, who have watched me for any period of time, you guys know I don't like Star Wars shrinking the universe. And my analogy for the shrinking of the universe always comes in the form of this. You know how big of a town you live in by when you walk out your door, how long do you go before you bump into somebody you know, right? Because if you live in a small town, like if you walk out your door and within 5 minutes you've bumped into 3 people you know, that's probably a pretty good indicator you live in a pretty small town. If you're like me and you live in the Los Angeles area and I can go walking up and down the streets for hours and never run into a single person I know, that's probably a pretty good sign you live in a fairly large city. And I feel like Star Wars, as a ridiculously huge Star Wars fan as I am, I feel like Star Wars a lot over the years, as much as I've liked a lot of the stuff they've done, obviously, I feel like more and more they shrink the Star Wars world and the Star Wars galaxy more and more and more, because every time we step into a Star Wars world, we're bumping into people we already know. It's like, you know, oh, you're doing that? You got to bump into Darth Vader. Ooh, we're going to do a Boba Fett movie. I'm not talking about The Mandalorian. Remember, they're going to do a Boba Fett movie. Oh, we got to, you know, if we're going to do this, we got to have a baby Jabba. We got to do this. Like, it feels like, you know, R2-D2 just got to show up. It just feels like every time they do it, we shrink it more and more and more. And one of the things that I love about Mandalorian is the fact that it doesn't have any characters we know. And by the way, that's one of the reasons why I just hated, I mean, the worst episode of Mandalorian was that episode that they went to Tatooine. And it was just so pathetically fan servicey. Look, everybody, it's the cantina. Remember the cantina? Ooh, isn't that cool? They're back at the cantina. Look, everybody, it's Sand People. Ooh, remember the Sand? It just sucked. That's the one episode I really, really disliked. It's the only episode of The Mandalorian that I really disliked. Because again, it was shrinking the universe. When one of the strong things to me, at any rate, and this is just my opinion, one of the strong things to me about Mandalorian was a totally different set of characters and a totally different environments and different stories they haven't told before. And it's in the familiar universe, but it was all new. And when you make things new, you expand the universe. And So I gotta admit, so Ahsoka Tano aside, despite the fact that I don't like the character, that aside, I also, Undead, felt a little eye roll going on when I realized any character we already knew coming into this is not great. But to stay positive, it still ultimately comes down to what do they do, right? Do they, say, pull a episode of Mandalorian where it was Tatooine, where it's just, look everybody, it's Ahsoka Tano. You guys know Ahsoka Tano. Oh my gosh, you know her. Isn't this cool? If they do what they did with Tatooine, then it'll suck. However, there are ways they could do it that could actually be quite good. I don't know what those ways are. That's up to Jon Favreau to decide. But, you know, there are ways to do it where it could be really great. So I'm with you, Undead. When I heard about a familiar character coming into Mandalorian, I roll my eyes a bit. But that doesn't automatically mean they can't come up with a really cool way to do it. For example, I don't like time travel in movies. Time travel is the laziest of the lazy man's plot devices in any movie, because there's no problem in any movie ever that can't be fixed with time travel. But there are some movies that have used it really, really well. Back to the Future, Star Trek: The Voyage Home. I mean, there are examples of time travel that have been used really, really frickin' well. And that could be the case here with what they're doing with the Ahsoka. So I feel you. I'm nervous about it. It made me roll my eyes a little bit, but let's not write it off, because if they can come up with a really cool plot narrative that facilitates that character being there, then it could be very good. It could be really good. So let's try to stay positive. Let's try to stay positive. All right. Next up, Captain Chicken Pants writes, I'm curious to know how they will introduce new heroes / villains, mutants, etc. into the MCU, introduce them as if they were already around in the background, example Spidey, or start their own stories from scratch. Well, I mean, they've done it. They've already done it, right? I mean, they've already started the process of bringing in new characters. They brought in Black Panther. He was already around. We just met him in Civil War. But then again, they bring in Captain Marvel. We get to see her origin story. They brought in Spider-Man. He was already around. So they've done it multiple ways. They've never had one strict formula way of doing it, and I expect them to do the same moving forward. All right, Star Wars Rocks writes, Hey, John, with the latest news about Ahsoka coming to The Mandalorian Season 2, do you think this could further solidify the fact that Bob Chapek is thinking of making Dave Filoni the next president of Lucasfilm? No, he's brutally unqualified. And by the way, I say that, you know who else is brutally unqualified? I don't say that as a disparaging remark on Dave Filoni's ability to do what he does. Christopher Nolan, who is he would be brutally unqualified. Christopher Nolan is a film director. He has no understanding of being the head of a corporation. He has no idea about how to be the head of a corporate structure and being the leader of that kind of structure. It's a totally different thing. Believe me, making films and being in charge of the company overseeing it are two radically different jobs. They are two insanely different jobs. So no. And actually, look, we saw the same thing happen with Kathleen Kennedy. Kathleen Kennedy is one of the, if not the, if you listen to Steven Spielberg, she's like the greatest producer in the history of Hollywood. But guess what? Turns out running a company is a different skill set than just being a producer. It's a different skill set altogether. And so, no, I don't think, and I've said this 1,000 times, and I've had studio people tell me I'm absolutely right about this. Directing a few cartoons does not make you the head, or does not qualify you to be the head of a corporate structure, overseeing a huge amount of stuff. It just doesn't do it. And again, I say that also understanding that I would say Ava DuVernay is not qualified to be, she's a great director. She's not qualified to be the president of Lucasfilm. You know, Christopher Nolan, one of the, some would argue, the greatest filmmaker in the business today, he doesn't carry the qualifications to be the president of the company. So, no, No, there's nothing about this that suggests that Bob Chapek, and by the way, it's not his call. It's not Bob's call. That'll be Alan Horn's call. Alan Horn is the High Lord of all things. Remember, Bob Iger put Alan Horn as the head of all Disney film. And so Alan Horn, everything's going to have to go through Alan Horn. And so we'll see how that goes. But no, Dave Filoni, they're not going to make him the next head of Lucasfilm. They just won't. He's directed a couple of cartoons, and he directed a couple of episodes. By the way, the worst episodes of Mandalorian. Although I thought the first episode which he directed was not bad. I thought the first episode he did was not bad, actually. And that's a tall order. Directing the first episode of a show is, I think some people underestimate how difficult that can be, because you are kind of setting the tone for the show. And while I really didn't like that one episode that Filoni directed with Tatooine, he did direct that first episode that, while it's not my favorite episode of the series, that's a tough thing to do. That is a hard thing to do, to go in and direct that first episode, set the tone, get things established. The audience doesn't have anything familiar to know, so you got to introduce the audience to everybody. It is a tall order, and I got to say, I think Filoni did a pretty good job with that episode. I think he did a pretty good job, because that ain't easy. And so I'm going to be curious to see how he does with season 2. And remember, that was the first thing that Dave Filoni ever directed live action. It was the first thing he ever directed live action. I thought he did a pretty good job. So let's see how he's now evolved, now that he's got that experience under his belt, now that he kind of, got a pretty good hit with the first episode, took a little bit of a swing and a miss with the second episode that he did, but now he's got that experience, right? And experience, even, believe me, I speak from experience. Experience, even when your experience is falling on your face, experience does nothing but help you. And now Dave Filoni, who's a guy who's never directed live action, he did that first episode. I thought he did pretty well. Swing and a miss with the Tatooine episode, fine. But now he's got something he's never had before, experience. Now he's got experience doing some live action stuff. And I, for one, am going to actually be really interested to see how he's now evolved going into a season 2. Now, I can't remember how many episodes they said he's going to direct the next season. But I am very much looking forward to seeing, and very curious and looking forward to seeing what he does in season 2. Because now he will be nothing but a better director than he was a year ago. He's going to be a better director today than he was a year ago. And it's going to be really cool to see how he now translates that into live action. All right, anyway. Next up, Mark C. writes, "Hey, John, I got to thinking, if Rosario Dawson is cast as Ahsoka Tano, what do you think of the likely... See, I had other people writing this to me too. What do you think the likelihood is that Sasha Banks was cast for playing Sabine Wren? I told you, a lot of people, that is on a lot of people's minds, Mark. And again, it's understandable. Because there's some similarities there. She's got the physicality. We know she's in it, but we don't know what her role is. We know she's only going to be in like 1 or 2 episodes, which is what it looks like. Ahsoka Tano's only going to be in 1, maybe 2 episodes at most. So I could see why people are thinking, I'm still going to guess no, because I don't think they're going to give a character like Sabine to a non-actress. I mean, again, we won't know for sure, but that's just my guess right now. All right. 50 Shades of Geek writes, I love seeing you and Ann play Mario Kart. Like Ann and I did a live stream of us playing Mario Kart the other night. My favorite moment was, don't body shame Bowser. Any chance you'll give Spider-Man PS4 or Fallen Order another shot? It's never too late for Ann to get you to play Pokemon. No, there's not going to be any Pokemon playing live streaming. No, I don't think so. I don't think I'm going to do Spider-Man or Fallen Order, but you will see me do it a little bit more as the days roll on. And we're stuck here at home. You're going to see me playing a little bit. You're going to see Ann and I playing some stuff, but I don't think it's going to be Spider-Man or Fallen Order. I own both of the games. I own them both on my PS4. I got my PS4 Pro downstairs now. I used to have it up here, connected up here, but now I've got it down in the living room. But you're going to see us playing some stuff. We got our Nintendo Switch down there. We got our PS4 Pro. So, yeah, you're going to see us streaming more stuff. All right, 50 Shades also writes, I think the state of the MCU right now parallels what's happened in the comics. I compared the MCU up to this point to the Lee, Kirby, and Ditko days. What came after wasn't bad, but it didn't have the same type of magic that it used to have, to me at least. See, and this was a big discussion yesterday about are the MCU's best days in front of them still or behind them? I am of the opinion that the MCU's best days are behind them. But that doesn't mean we don't still have great, wonderful, fantastic days ahead. I think we still have some fantastic stuff ahead. Absolutely. But I compare it to The Godfather. The best days of the crime mafia movies are behind us. Nothing's ever touched The Godfather, in my opinion. Nothing's ever touched The Godfather. But that doesn't mean that we haven't had wonderful, fantastic, memorable crime, gangster, mafia movies since. Of course we have, and we'll have more. But the best days, the best, are behind us. And that's kind of how I feel where the MCU is at. I think that the MCU is going to continue to have great success. I think we're going to have some fantastic stuff ahead of us, but I feel like the best is behind us. And that's not a bad thing. That's okay. That's okay, because the best bar is really, really high. But that's how I feel about it. Rob feels very differently. Rob thinks it's just going to get bigger and better moving forward. And hopefully it does. So we'll find out soon enough, though. All right, let's see. Michael Bradley writes, "Hello, John. What do you think is more likely to happen once the theaters reopen? A slow start before getting back to normal or mass sellouts?" Mass sellouts. Listen, I know I had a few of my friends also say to me, "John, I know you think that when the theaters open, there's going to be a big rush to get to the theaters, but there are going to be a lot of people that are going to be hurting financially. There are going to still be some people that are nervous, blah, blah, blah." And all that is true. But going out to the theaters has traditionally in our culture been something that we have done to recover. I just really believe, especially once people, even if there are people who are still nervous, man, once you kind of semi-quarantine yourself for a few weeks and you haven't been able to go to a restaurant in weeks or go to a bar in weeks or go to a movie in weeks, do these things that make you feel a semblance of normalcy. I believe, and I am no sociologist, I could be completely wrong about this. But I believe once the doors open again, I think you're going to see us as a culture so hungry to embrace that sense of normalcy again that you're going to see, and not everybody who's yearning for normalcy is going to run to the movies, but I think you're going to see a lot of people do. And not just the hardcore movie fans. I think just people yearning for that sense of normalcy again, to get out of the house and go do something that makes it feel like their lives are back into their flow, and that's something that I really think will be a part. So I believe, and I could be way off base about this, that hell or high water, once the theaters open, I think you're going to see sellouts. Not every movie selling out, but I think you're going to see, depending on what's in the theaters the day they open, I think you're going to see a lot of people back in the theaters. It could be wrong, could be totally wrong, but that's how I kind of see it. Anyway, thanks for writing that in, Michael. All right, Django19 writes, "Movie I've watched since quarantined. Argo," that's a good one. Bone Tomahawk, ooh, The Scene. All you got to say about Bone Tomahawk is The Scene, and everybody knows what you're talking about. Insomnia. Buried. Oh, that's so good. I'm telling you, Ryan Reynolds should have gotten a Academy Award nomination for that movie. He absolutely should have. Hereditary and Honey Boy is so good. I know they're all a little different, but I like to switch up the genre so I don't get bored by one type of movie. Up next, Godfather and Lord of the Rings. Man, that's some good stuff you got going on there. Hereditary is great. Honey Boy is great. If you haven't seen, may I suggest the other Shia LaBeouf film that came out in the same year, Peanut Butter Falcon. I like both of those movies very much, but I even preferred Peanut Butter Falcon a little bit more, but that's a good list, Django, and you're making good use of your time, my friend. All right, Willow writes, "Neuroscientists say that the prefrontal cortex of the human brain, which is involved in the decision-making process, doesn't fully develop until around the age of 25. Hence, you get the spring breakers partying in Florida during a pandemic." I was asking the other day, I asked everybody because, like you, we all saw these images, right? About what's going on in Florida with this pack of ignorant morons, these fools. And look, if you're one of the people who are down there and you take offense to me saying you're an ignorant fool, good. Anyway, these ignorant fools who are just out partying it up on the beach and stuff like that. And I asked everybody, it's like, a serious question, are all 21-year-olds idiots? Because, now that I think about it, I think we were all idiots when we were 21. I just think we were such idiots, we didn't even realize how idiotic we were. I think that's just it. I think we're all just really stupid when we're 21. And now, Willow, you've put science to it. Hey, it's science. So there you go. Thank you for updating us with that wisdom, Willow. All right, Gus Volt writes, is the Tony Khabib fight cursed? 5th time canceled? It's cursed. Somebody wrote in the other day, Guy, and asked, what's more cursed? New Mutants at this point? Or Khabib versus Ferguson? It's Khabib versus Ferguson. They've been trying to get this fight to happen for ages. They've been trying to get this fight to happen for years and years and years and years. This is the 5th time it's been canceled. Now, look, as soon as the doors open again, they will get this fight back on the books. This is a fight everybody wants, and it's a fight that's going to happen. And listen, Khabib is the baddest man on the planet. But if there is anybody out there who could legitimately pose a problem to Khabib Nurmagomedov, who is simply the baddest man on the planet, he is the greatest fighter in the world. Khabib is you can keep everybody else that you want. Khabib is the baddest man on the planet. But if there is anybody out there that does pose a legitimate problem to Khabib, it's going to be Tony Ferguson. Now, I'll put all my money on Khabib winning this fight all day, every day, but you better believe that out of everybody out there, Tony Ferguson is the guy who could be the puzzle that Khabib finds difficult to unravel. It could be. But yeah, man, it is. Woo, dude, that fight has been cursed. Anyway, 50 Shades of Geek writes, you accidentally missed a tip I sent yesterday where I said I can't send a lot of tips right now because of the lockdown. I understand you're under a lot of pressure during the show, but please be more careful. I can't afford to resend tips right now. Oh, well, then don't, dude. I mean, that's fine. But by the way, that's not something you have to send me a tip to tell me. First of all, you don't have to tell me you're not sending tips. That's totally fine. You're under no obligation to. And the second thing, if you did feel like you wanted to personally send me a message, you can just email me. You don't have to send me a tip. 50 Shades. Listen, dude, I understand money's going to be tight. So save your tip money for if you actually have a question you want to ask about movies and TV stuff and stuff like that. If you feel, just email me anytime, brother. Email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. I get all my emails that get sent there. Again, that's john@thejohncampeashow.com. I read every email that gets sent to me. So if you feel like you got a message you need to get to me, don't feel like you have to spend money to get the message to me unless you want it to be a question on the show. You don't have to spend money to get it to me, dude. Just email me and you're all good. You're all good. And take care of yourself. That's the important thing, friend. All right. Jetfire 97 writes, some streets and places are empty. It's true. They really are. Is it Corona or did Thanos wipe out half? It sucks that we have to wait 3 to 4 years for Tony to bring them back. Here's the thing, Jetfire. I know you meant well. You're trying to bring some levity. You were trying to bring some levity. You meant no offense by what you wrote. I know that. I totally do. But, there are a lot of people actually really suffering. Over 11,000 people have died of this thing. And while we need a break, we need to laugh, just be careful. Just be careful about what you write and how you write it. That's all I want to suggest, Jetfire. Okay. John McKinney writes, my top 5 favorite comedy shows. Number 1, Malcolm in the Middle. I was never big on Malcolm in the Middle. I never disliked it. I was never big on it. And Seinfeld. 2, South Park. By the way, guys, this is a little pet peeve of mine. Minor thing, but it's always been just a little pet peeve of mine. If you have a tie, if you want to put together a top 5 list or a top 10 list, whatever, you can have a tie. But that means, for instance, if you have a tie at number 1, then that means you can't have number 2. So, because your top 5 needs to have 5 shows. 5 shows. So really, your list is tied at number 1, Malcolm in the Middle and Seinfeld. Number 3 is South Park. Number 4 is Curb Your Enthusiasm. And number 5 is Arrested Development. And King of the Hill is not in your top 5. So you can have ties. And I've forgotten to do this myself. I'm guilty. Me. But it is a pet peeve of mine when I forget to do it and everybody else. So if you have a tie, remember you got to take out the next number below, because you have Malcolm in the Middle and Seinfeld ahead of South Park. Well, that makes South Park 1, 2, 3. That makes South Park number 3. So just remember that. Little pet peeve, but believe me, I do it all the time, so I'm completely guilty of that too. But some nice things on that list. Curb Your Enthusiasm, by the way, it looks like a show that you wouldn't like, but I think you'll like it. Larry David is hilarious. So do check that out when you get a chance. Take John's advice there and give that thing a chance. All right, Termite 30 writes, once I saw that Rosario Dawson was confirmed, I thought to myself, this is perfect casting. Now I can't imagine anybody else in the role. I'm the same way. Me, the salty, crusty guy about the character, I'm the same way. It's perfect casting. It's perfect casting. I don't, you guys know, I'm like, hey, there's 20, as long as you get somebody who's talented, there's 30 actors or actresses. Listen, there's 30 other actresses that they could have said was playing the role, and I'm sure that are really talented and it would have been fine. But I have a hard time imagining another name coming up other than Rosario Dawson that is more perfectly fitted and suited for that character. Even though I don't like the character, I just can't imagine them doing a better job of going out and getting the right person to play it. Now, as big of a fan of Rosario Dawson as I am, who knows? Maybe we'll see it and she'll be terrible in it. I mean, I highly doubt that, but you never know. Maybe this will be the one thing she sucks in. I mean, who knows? But I'm telling you, man, on paper, it is a perfect casting. It is an absolutely perfect casting. All right, Matthew Chandra just sends in a super chat to be supportive. Thank you, Matthew. He then also follows up, hey, John, I just watched Lord of the Rings behind the scenes. So amazed on how much thought and craft went in. My favorite of the trio are number 1, Fellowship, number 2, Return of the King, number 3, The Two Towers. Watched all 3 extended cuts since being at home. Dude, that is a good use of being at home. Now, my personal list, Matthew, is Return of the King, Fellowship, and then Towers. All 3, a lot of people forget this, all 3 of the Lord of the Rings movies were nominated for Best Picture. All 3 were. And of course, the third film, Return of the King, holds a tie for the record of the most Academy Awards any movie in history. It was nominated for 11 Academy Awards. It won 11 Academy Awards. It swept. It was a full sweep. It was absolutely incredible. And just as if you want a little piece of trivia, only one other trilogy, as far as I know, only one other trilogy has had all 3 films nominated for Best Picture. You guys know what it is. It's The Godfather. A lot of people forget Godfather 3, the much maligned Godfather 3, was nominated for Best Picture of the Academy Awards. So yeah, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong in the thing, but I believe those are the only 2 trilogies that all 3 films in the trilogy were nominated for Best Picture. Anyway, I myself, Matthew, am actually planning on doing a full watch through of all Lord of the Rings films a little bit later this week. Oh! Yay! That reminds me, something I meant to announce at the beginning of this show, and I totally forgot. Okay, nothing huge, just something that I think is fun. Okay, what was that, by the way? I don't know what that was. Anyway, I'm very excited. So it's a little thing, just something I'm kind of excited about. So have you guys heard of this? And let me see if I can bring it up here. Have you guys heard of, sorry, I almost missed, it's Netflix Party. Have you guys heard of this? Okay, so basically here's the deal with Netflix Party. And I'm going to do this for everybody who is a Patreon supporter. We're going to do this. It's on Monday. So basically what Netflix Party is I set up a watch party, right? I set up a watch party, and and I pick something that's on Netflix that we're going to watch. I then send out a link to everybody I want to invite to join me. And if you get an invitation, you click on the link, and if you have a Netflix account, because obviously you need a Netflix account, that thing we're going to watch is synced up with you and synced up with me, and we get to watch it together. And there's a chat board attached to it, so you can type in chats. And what I think I'll probably do is, for our Patreon supporters, is we have a Facebook page, so I'll probably stream myself live on video on the Facebook page. So we can chat in the text, but you can also see my reactions. And like, I think on Monday, I'm going to pick an episode of The Office, and we'll watch an episode of The Office. And then maybe, I don't know, maybe a Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday, maybe we'll do that Will Smith movie, Hancock. That would be good. I haven't watched Hancock in a while. And just something cool that, outside of doing the John Campea Show, gives us a little something that we can do together to hang out, and we can watch some stuff together. So I don't know if maybe I'm the only one who's excited about doing that. Maybe I'm the only one who's excited about doing that. But I think it's pretty cool, and I'm kind of excited about us trying it. So let me know if you guys think this is a cool idea. I personally think it's a cool idea. Maybe you think it's a lame idea and I'm getting excited for nothing. Tell me that too. That's perfectly fine. But keep your eyes open for it, because I'm gonna start doing that. I think Monday we're gonna do our first Netflix watch party on Monday, and I will let you guys know what. I was just saying an episode of The Office. It might be something else. Maybe we'll watch The Witcher through together again. I don't know, but I'll let you guys know what it's going to be. Maybe I'll put up a poll. That's what I'll do. I'll pick 4 things that we could do as a watch party on Monday, and I'll put it up on a poll on my Twitter, and then you guys can vote and tell me which of those 4 things you think we should watch for our watch party. Anyway, yeah, there we go. Okay. Where are we now? Sorry, I got sidetracked. I get sidetracked very easily. All right, Anthony Lucalano. And just, again, Matthew, good on you for watching the Lord of the Rings stuff. And yeah, the extended stuff, all the DVD special features are amazing. Anthony Lucalano writes, just finished watching Bridge on the River Kwai. It is easy to see why it is held in such high regard. William Holden and Alex Guinness were great in it. So glad I got it on Blu-ray, and I loved it. It is one of the great classics. I mean, it's a wonderful, it's a war movie, sure, but it's a human movie. You know what I mean? It's about the spirit of man kind of movie. And again, Alec Guinness, before he was Obi-Wan Kenobi, he's fabulous in it, and I'm really glad you had a chance to watch that one, Anthony. All right, and thanks for putting it on other people's radars. Let's see, Anthony then writes, gonna go watch Lawrence of Arabia tomorrow. Again, one of my all-time favorites, maybe the greatest cinematography in any movie ever. I just love that movie. Peter O'Toole, great. David Crabtree writes, you got to know when to hold 'em. Yeah, Kenny Rogers. You got to know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em. You know, when my mom was first teaching me how to play guitar, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that The Gambler might have been one of the very first songs she taught me how to play guitar. Anyway, you got to know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. Anyway, know when to walk away, know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. R.I.P. Kenny Rogers. Yeah, I was shocked. You know, a true story. One of the very, very first movies. Let me see if I can pull it up here and find it. One of the very first movies that I ever went to, not at all like in general, but like one of the very first movies I ever went to on my own, like without my parents. On my own without my parents. Was a movie by, not a movie by Kenny Rogers, but a movie that had Kenny Rogers in it. Let me see if I can find it here. Hold a second. It was a movie called, there it is. There it is. My mom took us to the movie theater and let us go into, she took us, there was a movie theater in the mall. The mall was Lime Ridge Mall. I believe it was Lime Ridge Mall. But me and my friend got to go into the theater. We were just children. I mean, we were just kids. and go see this Kenny Rogers movie called Six Pack. It was probably terrible. It was probably awful. But I remember it being one of the greatest cinematic achievements in the history of mankind, because it was the first time as a little kid, me and my friends, there might have even been 2 or 3 of us, we got to go into the movies by ourselves. We didn't go to them. My mom brought us to the theater and then just let us go. It was one of the first times I sat in a movie theater without my mom and dad and got to watch a movie. And I guess this was the only one that was there. And we watched Six Pack, a story about a race car driver played by Kenny Rogers, who comes across a group of, orphan children who just so happen to be really good mechanics, and breaking every child labor law known to man, he uses these kids as his pit crew, and then ultimately decides, I believe, it's been a long time, but if I'm not mistaken, I believe he then decides to adopt them. Six Pack, ladies and gentlemen, Six Pack. I read and heard about him passing, and it just didn't seem real. It didn't seem real. It almost seemed like, I don't know, Kenny Rogers just seemed like one of those guys that he'd live forever. Obviously that's ridiculous, but that's just kind of how it felt. He just felt like Kenny Rogers Chicken, man, the gambler. He was going to live forever. And that's just what it felt like. And even when I read in the report that he was 81 years old, I thought Kenny Rogers wasn't 81 years old. But yeah, he was. Yeah, he was. I was really, really sad to hear about the passing of Kenny Rogers. Anyway, thanks for putting that in there, David. All right, Slim Trav writes, Jumanji 3 made almost 800 million, chances for a fourth. It's the funny thing about, let me bring up Jumanji, because I know it got close. Jumanji, the next level box office. I know it was getting close. Okay, sort of close. $754 million, which is huge. That's huge. Make no mistake about it. $754 million is huge by any definition. It is, however, also it's like $200 million less than the last one. That's fine. Still a massive success. Still an absolute, by any metric, by any measurement, $750 million is a huge success. I don't know that it guarantees a fourth one, because The Rock is busy. And now he's trying to do Black Adam and Shazam on top of all these other movies he's doing. Jumanji The Next Level wasn't bad. Actually, it was good. I like Jumanji The Next Level. I like it. But it wasn't quite as good as the last Jumanji movie. It wasn't as good as that last one, him and Kevin Hart and Jack Black and Karen Gillan did. I mean, that movie was so surprisingly great. Like, so utterly surprisingly great. And the second one was a good little follow-up. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't that amazing surprise that the first one was, So if you've seen the second one, you know that they did leave it open-ended for a sequel. They leave an open door for another sequel. And so they can totally return to that. And at $750 million, of course they have to consider returning to it again. They have to consider it. But I'm going to say it's not a slam dunk that they do another one. Because of the increasingly business of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, there was diminishing returns, both box office-wise and quality-wise with this one. He's totally busy. Why not just go, you know what? Jumanji 2 was a big win. Big win. We made a lot of money. Not as much as last one. We made a lot of money. Still entertained some people. Let's quit while we're ahead. So, I don't know. I'll say it's not guaranteed they'll do another one. But you make $750 million, you know it's on the table. You know they're talking about it. I just do think there's a chance they don't do it. I think there's a chance they don't do it, so we'll have to wait and see. All right, David Crabtree writes, Did it Transformers triple feature, Transformers 86, Transformers '07, and Bumblebee. I love Bumblebee, but still got to give the nod to the '07 film overall as a movie watching experience. That Autobot arrival scene still gives me goosebumps. Was it 2007? Was it really 2007? Hold on a second. Let me... no way. No way. It was 2007. Holy crap, that was 2007. Thanks a lot, David. You just made me feel old. For some reason, I would... seriously, if you had just asked me, pop quiz, Campea, what year did the first Transformers film come out with? I might have said, I don't know, 2013. That's probably what I said. That's probably what I would have said. 2007? Holy shit. Listen, I also like that Transformers movie. It's the only one that I like. But Bumblebee, we just watched Bumblebee again the other night. Travis Knight did such a great job with that movie, dude. I love that one so much. But anyway, yeah, holy crap, 2007. Time flies. All right, Jetfire 97 says, one of two. In regards to my Corona Thanos post, I wasn't joking about the people who died from Corona. Just that seeing things empty reminded me of the stuff. No, dude, I know you were not trying to be offensive. I know you weren't. I know you probably meant that totally in a spirit of levity. I know you did. I just think you gotta be a little bit more careful. You just gotta be a little bit more careful about how your words and understand how your words can be perceived. Believe me, I am somebody who steps in it myself all the time. Believe me, I do. So, but I knew you meant no offense by it. I totally know you meant no offense by it. All right, Tyler Yeats. Oh, sorry, there's a part 2 there. And how it had an empty feeling there. Hopefully things are better by 2023. I hope everyone stays safe. I'm sorry if I offended you or your viewers. Believe me, I know you meant no offense. I knew it. I knew you didn't mean to offend anybody. Absolutely. All right. Tyler Yeats writes, do you have a favorite Jason Bateman movie? He's one of my favorite actors. I love Jason Bateman. He's one of those guys where it's like, he's not one of my favorite actors, but when he's in a comedy, I just trust that comedy's probably going to be pretty funny. So, when he's appearing, like when he's going to do Horrible Bosses, I just believed it was going to be good. I mean, the rest of the cast is really good too. But when I see Jason Bateman's name attached to something, I just believe I'm going to really like it. He also did that, one of his little underappreciated movies, and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but maybe you guys remember. It's the one he did with Ryan Reynolds, where they did the body switching thing, where they wake up one day in each other's bodies after peeing into a fountain or something like that. I can't remember all the exact details. I remember that was really funny. Oh gosh, now I gotta pop open his IMDb. Let's see, Jason Bateman. I was never the world's biggest Arrested Development fan. I didn't hate it, but I was never the biggest world. Juno was great, but that was really more Ellen Page's movie than his. Oh my God, I love Game Night. Game Night, which just came out in 2018. It's a comedy that came and went in the theaters pretty quick, didn't make a lot of noise. I loved Game Night. I'm not saying it's my favorite one of his, but holy crap, I loved Game Night. I thought that movie was great. Bad Words was really good. Let's see. The Change-Up is the name of the movie he did with Ryan Reynolds. That was The Change-Up. I actually really like The Change-Up. I know a lot of people don't, and that's perfectly fine. Couples Retreat was cute. Let's see. Of course, the aforementioned, we were talking about Hancock a little bit earlier. He's in Hancock. He's in Juno. He's in Smoking Aces. Man. Oh, it was a small part, but his role as Pepper in Dodgeball, I loved him as Pepper in Dodgeball. So is that as well. Yeah, man, I don't know. I would have to think about that. I would really, really have to think about that. But again, he's just one of those guys, and when I see him popping up in a movie, specifically if it's a comedy, my automatic default is to trust and believe that comedy is actually going to be pretty good. So that's my default position on that. All right. Jorian Droog writes, finally watched all 2019 Best Picture nominees, and my ranking is the following. Number 9, Little Women. Number 8, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Number 7, The Irishman. Number 6, Ford v Ferrari. Number 5, Joker. Number 4, Marriage Story. Number 3, Parasite. Number 2, Jojo Rabbit. Number 1, 1917. There's only one film on that list I wouldn't have on the list. out of all those films that got nominated, because I think every year we all have one or two movies that maybe we wouldn't have on the Best Picture nominee list. There's only one for me, and that's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now, I enjoyed Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I went to go see it in theaters, I believe, 3 times. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't to me, there's upper tier and lower tier Quentin Tarantino, and even all the movies in Quentin Tarantino's lower tier are all good. They're all good. But I felt like it was one of Quentin Tarantino's lower tier movies. But I know a lot of people were stupendously impressed with that movie, and that's great. But yeah, look what a stupidly good year. Jojo Rabbit, 1917, Parasite, Joker, Marriage Story, The Irishman. I mean, Ford v Ferrari. It was just such a stupidly good year. I still believe in March of 2020, we still don't appreciate how good of a year 2019 was for movies. I really don't. Anyway, Ben Rayner, good on you, Jordan, to get caught up on all those. Good on you. All right. Ben Rayner writes, just a heads up, Invisible Man and The Hunt, at least on iTunes, you could only rent and not buy the movies. I just find this interesting. Yeah, and they're renting for, I believe, $20. Which, is fair. You're getting them totally early. So, yeah, you're getting that. Now, I believe, can you buy Onward right now? I can't remember if you can buy Onward or only rent Onward right now. But yes, that was a part of the story initially, Ben, too, that they were putting it out for rental. So I believe it's $20 to rent it, I think, for 48 hours. So, yeah, good to point that out, though. Make sure everybody's aware of that. Good on you. All right, Alex Spur writes, If Man of Steel Superman is done, then do you think a remake of Christopher Reeve's Superman would be a good idea? Well, no. They kind of tried to do that with Superman Returns. In many ways, that was a revival, if you will, of the Christopher Reeve Superman, in spirit, if not in not being literal, but in spirit at least. So, no, I simply don't think you can do that Superman movie, which was perfect for its era. I don't think you can do that Superman movie in today's era. That's part of the reason why I thought Man of Steel was so perfect, because like Christopher Reeve's Superman, I felt Man of Steel was a perfect iteration of who and what Superman is and embodies in this era. And that's probably why I felt like it worked. So they can remake it, but I don't think it'll be a remake of the Christopher Reeve Superman. It'll just be a remake of Superman. But I don't think, and listen, I'm sure it'll borrow a little bit of the Christopher Reeve Superman. It'll probably borrow a little bit of the Brandon Routh Superman. It'll probably borrow a little bit of the Henry Cavill Superman, who is my favorite Superman. So probably have all that, but it's still, ultimately, it'll be its own new thing. All right. Luke Wong writes, shout out to McMaster University. Mac in Hamilton. Martin Short went to Mac. A lot of great Canadian kids went to McMaster University. And one of those beautiful campuses in the world, too. You must be a Hamiltonian, Luke. All right, Derek Jackson. Right, Hamilton is my hometown, by the way. Derek Jackson just sends in a $5 super chat just to be supportive. Thank you so much, Derek. I appreciate that, man. The Dark Side writes, which upcoming Marvel movie are you most excited for? You know what? That's a question that comes up a lot, and I go back and forth. I think despite the fact that I'm not thrilled that they're bringing Jane back in, because I love Natalie Portman, but her Jane I felt, and it's not her fault, but the Jane character I felt was the weak link in the first 2 Thor movies. And I love the first Thor movie, but the chemistry with her and Thor is never something I ever bought into, blah, blah, blah. Even though that's how I feel about that, I gotta say probably Thor Love and Thunder is the one I'm most excited about. Although I am crazy excited too, just for Falcon and Winter Soldier. I know that's Disney Plus, but I am also crazy excited for Falcon and Winter Soldier. All right, let's move on here. Gonayi1, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, writes, hey John, I've been on an 80s kick lately, so I've been rewatching Cobra Kai on YouTube and listening to FM 84 Synthwave. What's your favorite way to go 80s? My favorite way to go 80s is actually U2. U2, because that was the late 80s is when I was, I'm a teenager in the late 80s. I'm playing in my band. We did like a U2 tribute band. Joshua Tree still is the greatest album of all time. Joshua Tree is the greatest album of all time. But yeah, when I want to 80s it up, I usually go the old school U2. And they're still making great music, but the old school U2 is how I 80s it up myself personally. All right, thanks for sharing that, man. Oak I writes, no way J.K. Simmons is down for a Man-Wolf film. I'm not quite sure what it is we're talking about. No way, Jake. I'm not quite sure what we're referring to. If you guys know what he's referring to in the chat section, discuss it amongst yourselves, because obviously Oak has some major conviction here, because he said that with conviction. You know what I mean? But I'm just not really sure what it is we're talking about. All right, Alex Spur writes, if Wonder Woman 84 makes more money on VOD than it would in the movie theaters, then you can say goodbye to movie theaters. Mayweather versus Pacquiao costs $90 each. Wonder Woman won't be that much. But no, listen, it won't. That's the thing. It won't. They have done these studies. They know it won't. That's the thing. That's why Charles Roven, the producer, said it's ludicrous. Charles Roven, who was also producer on the Dark Knight films, by the way, with Christopher Nolan. It's ludicrous. They know what the numbers are. They know what VOD actually does. And it's minuscule. It's minuscule compared to what the theater does. And yeah, they charge $90. And guess what? They still broke all kinds of records for not just how much money they made, but for how many people ordered the pay-per-view. They broke all sorts of records. People who weren't boxing fans were getting the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. I mean, it was just something they had never seen. Nothing has ever come close, and that's the best thing ever. And with record numbers of signups and a $90 price tag, it still only made $400 million. Which for a movie like Wonder Woman is financial suicide. That means it loses like $100 million. It's crazy. But it's true. But like, yes, if Wonder Woman makes more money on VOD than it would in theaters, yeah, that would be the end of movie theaters. But the whole point is, and what in that article that we were looking at, what all the industry people are pointing out, and remember, these are the industry people who, they don't care where their money comes from. They just want to get their money, and they're all saying and laying it out, this doesn't work. You're not going to make, so you can say, that's the thing, we can say, if Wonder Woman made more, okay, yes. But then I could also say, well, if I beat Khabib Nurmagomedov and Tony Ferguson and John Bones Jones and hell, throw in Brock Lesnar in a 4-on-1 fight, then I am the toughest man in the world. Okay, sure, yes. If I win a 4-on-1 fight against Tony Ferguson, Khabib, John Bones Jones, and Brock Lesnar all at the same time, yes, you can say I am the toughest man in the world. But that is a nonsensical proposal, because I would not win a fight in a 4-on-1. I would not win a fight in a 1-on-1, let alone a 4-on-1 fight against those guys. So yes, I can say if I beat all four of those guys in a fight, I am the toughest man in the world. That's essentially what you're saying when you say if Wonder Woman makes more in VOD than it does in theaters, but it doesn't. That's just the thing. Like, believe me, the studios are all about one word: greed. The studios are all about greed. They're all about greed. They want whatever is going to get them the most money. And so they invest a lot of money into studies and figuring it out, and analysis and figuring out. Because if they thought for 1 second that they could make 1 penny more putting a Wonder Woman out on VOD than in theaters, oh, they would have done it in a heartbeat. It wouldn't even be a discussion. If they thought they could make, if they thought there was even a 5% chance that they could make 1 penny more on VOD than in theaters, they would do it in a heartbeat. But what are these people who stand to gain saying? They're saying it's ludicrous. It's an impossibility. So, I mean, crazier things in the world have happened. But again, it's just not the reality. It's just not the reality. And again, I want to reference you to go back and watch that studio head roundtable that the Hollywood Reporter put up on YouTube. It's got the head of all the major studios all talking, and they come around the amount of money that actually gets made in home video releases. And I refer you back to that because believe me, these greedy studios, it would make them jump ship like that, brother. It would make them jump ship like that. So they're going to be studying that. And the moment they think they will make the transition. The moment they think they'll make 1 penny more, they'll make that transition without hesitation. But that's not where we're at, unfortunately. All right. Let's see here. Mr. Mondragon writes, John, after watching Ford v Ferrari for the first time, there are two things I want to do. First, play Gran Turismo, and second, drive stick again. You know, it's funny. I got into a buddy's car about a week and a half ago. And it was a stick. Now, I learned how to drive on a stick. Like, that's how I learned how to drive. But I just realized as I got in, and he's like, I can't remember the last time I got into a car that was stick. I really can't. But it's true, right? You come out of Ford v Ferrari, and all of a sudden, as you're pulling out of the parking garage in the theater, or you're pulling out of your driveway, all of a sudden, you think you're freaking Christian Bale behind the wheel, right? And you feel like it's time to hit the floor. Same kind of feeling you get when you go to a Fast and the Furious movie. Absolutely. All right. Just Your Average Joe writes, I might be wrong, but I feel like in this climate and social situation, the numbers for a VOD for a movie like a Wonder Woman 84 would be tremendous. The Mayweather fight at 90 was at 4.4 million buys because it was watched at social gatherings. But that's the exact same thing that's going to happen with this, right? People would get it, and then they would have 5 or 6 people come over. Which you really shouldn't do, but people will do. That's what people will do. And they'll do it. And believe me, again, if for a second, the studios that invest tons of money into research and analysis on this, if they thought for 1 second they could remotely get close to doing okay, they would do it. The fact that they're not doing it should tell us a lot. But, I mean, again, we live in a crazy time right now. I mean, who knows? Like, everything that I would normally say would be a flat impossibility, and what the industry has always said is a flat impossibility, in this sort of unprecedented situation that Hollywood has never been in before, the normal rules may not apply. So I still think incredibly highly unlikely, but I mean, I got to acknowledge that these are crazy, unprecedented times, and the regular rules very much may not apply. May not apply. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. All right, let's see what happens here. Derek Jackson writes, since I was in my 20s in the 80s, I love 80s movies. What do you think of two of my favorite movies, Purple Rain, and Buckaroo Banzai? You know what? I am a bit of an outcast amongst a lot of my friends because while I love so much music that's in Purple Rain, I was not a big fan of the movie. My favorite scene was probably that, I can't remember the name of the band, but the Jungle Love, oh. Remember that scene? Anyway, I think I want to know ya. Anyway. Music review. Okay, so I wasn't a big fan of Purple Rain. I was also not the biggest fan of Buckaroo Banzai. But, you know, I've got friends who will swear by Purple Rain, like Robert Meyer Burnett. If I was in the room, if Robert Meyer Burnett was in the room to hear me say, I don't really like Purple Rain, I think he would be agog, to quote Les Mis, he would be agog and aghast. He would be agog and aghast is what he would be. So I know it's got a lot of people, but yeah, I still watched it. I watched it because I was really into Prince's music in that era. I was a teenager, but I was really into Prince's music in that era for sure. All right, Dangerous Lee writes, I just wanted to send some love to all retail workers in our community and tell you all thank you. You're taken for granted on a daily basis, yet here you are keeping the shelves full so the rest of us can survive. You all are warriors, and I bow to you. You know what? Somebody else brought that up the other day, Dangerously, and I cannot agree with you more. You know, we take the grocery store clerks, the people in these stores and the jobs that they do, we take them for granted, me being guilty too. We take them for granted on a daily basis. But when the shit hits the fan and we need to get to the store and maybe not all the toilet paper is there and maybe our favorite ice cream isn't there, but everything we need to survive is there on the shelves, they're putting themselves at risk to make sure we have the things we need. And I think it's one of the interesting things. I like to use the term silver lining in horrible, horrible situations like this. One of the little silver linings is that I think it allows us to have a better appreciation for certain people in certain roles that maybe sometimes we take for granted. And I'll tell you what, I was in the grocery store a few days ago and I saw somebody pulling, like one of the grocery store workers pulling one of those carts, had a bunch of frozen dinners on or whatever. And I didn't do it physically, but in my mind, I wanted to salute them. I wanted to salute them and just say thank you. And I should have. You know what I should have? I should have gone up to the dude and say, hey, listen, dude, you're busting your ass. You're filling those shelves so idiots like me can come in here and have something to eat tomorrow night. Thank you. I should have done that. I don't know why I didn't now that I think about it. I was too worried about looking silly. Fuck looking silly. I should have gone up and said thank you to the guy. You know what? Next time I go into a grocery store, I'm going to do that. That's what I'm going to do. We should all do that. Thank you for pointing that out, Dangerous. All right, Casinema Reviews writes, we should be talking about A Quiet Place 2 right now. Yeah, it is unfortunate. It is unfortunate. Quiet Place 2 was supposed to be out in theaters this weekend. My most anticipated movie of the year was supposed to be in theaters this weekend. And hey, bigger problems I know, but within our little confines of being a movie fan community, that's kind of, that sucks. That sucks. We'll see it soon enough, though. We'll see it soon enough. But I do lament that Casinema. All right. Stubble McShave writes, suggestion to watch Shogun, the miniseries. It's great. Dude, I have talked about Shogun many times over the years. It's from the 80s. It's based on the James Clavell novel. And it's got, I'm forgetting the name of the actor, the guy who plays Salla in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Why am I forgetting his name? He was also Gimli in Lord of the Rings, and I'm freezing on his name. But at any rate, he's not the main guy in it, but he's one of the guys in it. Fabulous. And I've always said, when people ask me, what book do you want to see turned into a movie? I think a Shogun movie, a good 2.5 hour Shogun movie would be awesome. Would be awesome. It would be great. And thank you, guys in the live chat. Always rely on the guys in the chat. McLegolas. Oh, Mr. Legolas. I said McLegolas. Donald A. Ryder B. Brandon Seckel. All saying John Rhys Davies. I don't know why I froze on his name. Thank you, everybody, for throwing that in. John Rhys Davies. Yep. Check out Shogun, guys. If you get a chance to watch. I mean, it's old school. And I don't know that it ages really well. But if you watch it, look past the production of it and just embrace the story of it. It's awesome, and I contend it would make a great, great movie. All right, Suthius writes, Mr. C, creamy or crunchy peanut butter? What say you? Creamy. And it's funny you mention it, because last night I made my last peanut butter sandwich. I realize I don't go to the peanut butter jar all the time, but I forgot that, and Ann and I had this conversation. She goes, well, why didn't you buy peanut butter when we were at the store last week? It's because I didn't realize we needed peanut butter. These are the conversations that married people have. Yes, but I am a smooth and creamy. Smooth and creamy. I'm not a big, I don't like crunchy in my peanut butter. All right, Curtis Strange. Wasn't he a golfer? Anyway, I have one recommendation to watch during lockdown, and that's The Greasy Strangler. The theme song alone will get stuck in your head for days. Okay, I'll bite. The Greasy... The Greasy Strangler. I am not even familiar. It only came out in 2016. Directed by Jim Hoskins. Michael St. Michael's, Sky Elobar, Elizabeth Durazo. I have never heard it. Let me read the synopsis. I'm almost scared, but like I said, I'll bite. Ronnie runs a disco walking tour. A disco walking tour with his son Braden. When a sexy woman takes the tour, it begins a competition between father and son for her love. It also signals the arrival of an oily stranger who stalks the streets at night. Look, let me bring this up so you guys can see what it is I'm looking at. This is the Greasy Strangler. I have never heard of it, but you got me. I might, oh my God, there's even a video there. Oh, do I click on the video? Oh, do I click on the video? No, not right now. Not right now, but okay. You've put it on our radar, dude. You've put congratulations. You put the Greasy Strangler on our radar. All right, let's see here. Casinema Reviews writes, do you have any films that you know you like and dislike about, but don't know what to think about it overall? I have 3. Watchmen, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and Uncut Gems, though I watched that just last night, so that could change eventually. Listen, we popped on Uncut Gems here the other night. And you guys remember, I was like, Adam Sandler was amazing in it. But I'm not as big on this movie as a lot of other people are. I'm not saying I hate it. I'm not saying I dislike it. I'm just saying I'm not as big on it as a lot of other people are. I get it. Sandler's performance is mind-blowing. So me and Kaori and Nigel were over here the other night. And Kaori and Nigel are the only people we have over because they're like one block over and they're quarantining. And so we are the only 4 people the 4 of us are kind of interacting with. So they were over here. So what we've been kind of doing to stay busy is we've hunkered down. We have movie night. And the other night we watched, what did we watch? We watched Bumblebee, which was great. Everybody loved it. We watched, what was the other one we watched the other night? We watched one before Bumblebee. Now I can't remember which one it was, but at any rate. So they were over the other night and they were, what movie should we watch? And I believe it was Kaori said, I've always wanted to see Uncut Gems. And Anne's like, yeah, I want to see Uncut Gems. And Nigel was like, I don't know, it looks a little weird. And they asked me, John, should we watch Uncut Gems? And I'm like, okay, here's the thing. It got, a lot of people really loved it. It got a bunch of awards buzz. It didn't get any Academy Award nominations, but there was a lot of buzz for it. Adam Sandler is fantastic in it. He actually won the Independent Spirit Award for it, although he wasn't nominated for the Academy Award, but he's great in it. I don't know if you guys will like it or not, to be honest. And they're like, okay, we just want to watch it. I'm like, okay. They hated it. They hated it. So hey, that just goes to they all thought Adam Sandler was great, but they hated it. So I see where you're coming from, Casinema. The one film I can think of that, especially over the last year, that I watched that there's things I really like, things I kind of don't, and I just walked out of it not knowing what to think about it, was Willem Dafoe, Robert Pattinson, The Lighthouse. The performances in Lighthouse are crazy good. The monologues are crazy good. The chemistry between Dafoe and Pattinson are crazy good. But I must admit, I walked out of the theater and I was just like, what the holy hell did I just watch? And to this day, months later, months and months and months later, I'm still not really sure what I think about it. So yeah, that's one for me that I'm still not sure about. Did I love it? Did I hate it? I'm not really sure. I'm still kind of in that place with it. So that's the one I would mention, Cinema. All right. Jason Dolan writes, Netflix is going to sweep the Oscars in 2020, especially if nothing else comes out, Jason. They very well could. Senpaigar, because they are putting all their movies out. Senpaigar writes, and by the way, speaking of Netflix, remember when Paramount, they were supposed, I believe it was Paramount that was supposed to release that, what's the name of it now? I can't remember the name of the movie now. I'm freezing on the name of the movie. Hold a second. Because I remember, I can see the poster in my head. And I'm just forgetting the name of the movie. It was directed, I know it was directed by Rupert Wyatt. And I'm trying to remember the name of the movie. Let me pull it up here. Oh, he's not the guy who directed. I stand correct. Let Me In. Hold a second. It's the director of Let Me In. That's who did it. Okay. So it was Matt Reeves. Why did I freeze on Matt Reeves? It was Cloverfield. That's right. Cloverfield. I was freezing on Cloverfield's name. So remember Paramount was going to put out that Cloverfield movie, and that Cloverfield movie, last second, they just dumped it on Netflix. Remember that? Very last second, they just dumped it on Netflix. Well, it looks like they did it again. So let me see if I can bring this up here, because what has happened is a movie that I think looks really charming. Issa Rae and Kumail Nanjiani, and I am a huge Kumail Nanjiani fan for life because of The Big Sick. The Big Sick is enough. I'll forgive him for Stuber. That was terrible. But I am a fan of his for life because of The Big Sick. But they've got this new movie coming out called Lovebirds. And I have heard zero buzz about it. Like, I have heard nobody talk about this movie. None. Nobody. And even though I think the trailer has looked pretty charming, me and Ann both. Ann and I both think that the trailer for this looked pretty damn charming. Well, apparently Netflix has pulled a Cloverfield again. They have decided to dump their movie on Netflix. And I fear that, much like the situation with that Cloverfield movie, because that Cloverfield movie was shit. Not the shit, it was shit. And so now I'm really afraid, because I've been I know I'm like one of the only people, but I've been looking forward to this movie. And my fear right now is that it might be terrible. Now, the one kind of redeeming element of this is maybe this isn't because it's like Cloverfield where the movie was terrible and they knew it and they just dumped it on that. Maybe this is more to do with, listen, we've already spent our marketing budget on this movie. We've already spent our marketing budget on it, and we can't put it in theaters. So we got to get something for it. Let's put it out on Netflix. And you know what? It's just as well, because like I said, even though I've been looking forward to it, zero buzz. I've heard nobody talking about this movie. I fear that this is a movie that was going to colossally flop, even though I'm excited about it. But I was afraid it was going to colossally flop. So it might be just as well as it goes to Netflix. But there's another one that's going to Netflix. Maybe it'll be an Oscar contender. All right. Let's see here again. Senpaigar writes, I know you complain about it, but I would have liked a James Mangold directed Boba Fett movie. I wanted that a lot. Could have been great. I mean, listen. Anything can be great. Like, look, I hate the Ahsoka Tano character, but it might be great in Mandalorian, right? I love the Boba Fett character, but I don't want a Boba Fett standalone movie. But if it's being directed by James Mangold, well, then it's got the potential to be great. I mean, it does. Because Mangold is turning into one of my favorite directors. I mean, between Logan, he's done a lot of great stuff before, but just in recent years, he did Logan, and then he did Ford v Ferrari, which is stupid good if you haven't seen Ford v Ferrari. It is stupid good. It could have been interesting, Senpaigar. It definitely could have been interesting. All right, Suthius writes, I guess as part of marketing for My Spy, Batista and his young co-star were on an episode of FBE. Oh, really? The Fine Brothers. I know Benny and Rafi. Having him rip things apart, they gave him a watermelon, and Jesus Christ, my dude punched it once and ripped it in half. Reactions came from the crew instead. Yeah, I mean, listen. I have been an unapologetic fan of Dave Bautista for a while. He's just one of the nicest guys. I've had the privilege of meeting and speaking to him 3 or 4 times. Totally great dude. That doesn't mean I let him slide when he was saying stupid things like, no thanks, I'd rather be in good movies. It's like, Dave, shut up. You're too good of a guy and too nice of a guy to say something that stupid. So I don't give him a pass for that crap. But he is genuinely one of the nicest guys I've met in this business. But he's also a beast of a man. He is a beast of a man. And, I know the guys over at Fine Brothers, and I've known them for a lot of years. Actually, Benny and Rafi, some people may or may not know this. Benny and Rafi Fine, before they were the Fine Brothers, they were screening my calls when I was doing a live show at a place called Now Live. This is before I was doing YouTube stuff. This is back when I was still doing the movie blog. And Benny and Rafi, one of them was screening. It was a live call-in show that I was doing. And one of the two brothers, I can't remember which one, was screening the calls. And actually, I'll get to this in a second. So one of the two guys are screening my calls, and the other one was like one of my the main engineer for, floor director, main engineer for the show that I was doing. And my buddy Soul was also one of the producers there. And that's how I met Soul and got to know Soul. And now Soul's one of my best friends in LA. And he was like their big CFO for years and years and years at the Fine Brothers. But anyway, so Benny and Rafi, that I've known them since then. And actually, true story, it was either Benny or Rafi, I cannot remember which one, when I was doing my live show, that took the call from this young woman named Ann Ora, who today goes by the name of John Campea. And it was either Benny or Rafi, one of the two, who took her call to put her through on the show. And she asked, because we had briefly met the night before at a party. Milo Ventimiglia set it up and stuff like that. He's the one who invited Ann to be at the party. And I was throwing this party for a movie that Milo Ventimiglia had done with my friends, Mark Neveldine and Brian Taylor, who were the producers and writers of that movie. And so I had Milo Ventimiglia on my show the next day after this party. And we were taking live calls. And this young woman, Ann Ora, called into the show. Benny or Rafi Fine, one of the two of them, took the call, screened the call, and she asked them, can I get that John Campea guy's phone number and an email address? So during one of the breaks, Benny comes in and says, I can't remember if it was Benny or Rafi, but they come in and say, John, like one of the girls who called in, the girl who was just on, they asked if they could have your contact info. And I'm like, yeah, because she's cute. So I'm like, yeah. So here I was single, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, she's cute. Yeah, by all means. That's kind of the hand that the Fine Brothers had to play of FBE Reacts. And then, of course, the Fine Brothers, Benny and Rafi, went on to launch their own production stuff. And now they kind of rule the internet and they kind of rule YouTube, and they're doing a great job, and they continue moving on. Anyway, that was a long story that had no real point. Let's keep going, shall we? John McKinney writes, I saw your Bob Iger video and I wanted to ask you, what do you think of Michael Eisner? Was there any pros for you under his reign? Oh yeah. And actually in the video, the guy listed like Michael Eisner a lot, in as much as I say that Bob Iger, what Disney is today, was really all defined. The DNA of what Disney is now today was really defined by Iger. You think of Disney, you think of Pixar. Bob Iger oversaw the acquisition of Pixar. You think of Disney, you think of Marvel. Marvel was acquired under Bob Iger. You think of Disney, you think of Star Wars. Star Wars was acquired under Bob Iger. All this stuff. Then you think of Disney, you think of Disney Plus, all under the leadership and masterminding of Bob Iger. All this stuff is the acquisition of Fox. You think of Disney, you think of the huge acquisition of Fox. But it's just basically, when you come down to what the DNA of Disney is today, was really all kind of guided by Bob Iger. But before Bob Iger, Disney was also already a huge, massive company, blah, blah, blah. And you can really say that a lot of the DNA there, and I heard another analyst describe it like this, and I'm just kind of parroting what they say, but I completely agree. It was the DNA of Disney at that time before I was really Michael Eisner. So now look, I don't know all the ins and outs about the intercorporate drama that went on. I'm not really up on all that kind of stuff, but under his leadership, they were really defined by how he led them for a lot of years, just much as Bob Iger has done now. I think Bob Iger has had a greater impact, but it is what it is. All right, Suthius writes, not as funny at first, but Jumanji 2 is enjoyable. I agree. I think it was enjoyable. It is not as funny. Was not as surprising. It didn't have the same heart or charm that the first one did, but it still had heart and charm. And I enjoyed it. It's a good movie. And at $750 million is tremendously successful. All right, Cass Grafks writes, hello, John. A movie I just revisited is The Fisher King with Robin Williams. It's great. It's amazing. However, I don't think it gets enough credit. Oscar performances. I hope people give this movie a view. Here's the reality, though, Cass. There are a couple of older Robin Williams films that a lot of people don't give credit to. Me and a buddy of mine were actually talking about old Robin Williams films. Had to been about like a month or two ago. And Fisher King is one that absolutely comes up every single time. Another one that I think probably a lot of people have never even heard of is called The World According to Garp. So The World According to Garp is another one. Another one that isn't an older one of his. It was one of the more recent ones of his before he died. But he actually starred in my favorite Christopher Nolan film called Insomnia. And he was in Insomnia, and he was great in Insomnia. Oh, let me pull this up here. What year was Insomnia? I believe it was 2001. Nope, it was 2002. It was 2002 that it was. And I'm sorry, that was, I'm thinking of 1 Hour Photo. I'm thinking of 1 Hour Photo. Anyway, Insomnia is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Insomnia is great. And Robin Williams, I was thinking of Robin Williams' performance in 1 Hour Photo. I was going to say, because, he's this guy who takes pictures. I'm like, wait a minute, that's 1 Hour Photo. I was even getting them mixed up there for a second. But anyway, he is magnificent in Insomnia. He's not the photo guy. That's 1 Hour Photo. He is magnificent in this movie. Al Pacino is absolutely magnificent in this movie. Hilary Swank, Academy Award winner Hilary Swank, is absolutely marvelous in this movie. And I will tell you what, it is my favorite Christopher Nolan film. It is my favorite Christopher Nolan film. God, I love this movie. But anyway, so yeah, so going back to the older ones, Fisher King, World According to Garp, a lot of people thought like when he did like Good Morning Vietnam, or when he did Good Will Hunting, a lot of people thought, oh, that's when he started getting, he started to do serious stuff, or Captain, My Captain, The Dead Poets Society. But he had been doing some drama stuff before that too. And he had always been great, and he was wonderful. And yeah, if you get a chance, watch The Fisher King. If you get a chance, watch The World According to Garp. If you get a chance, watch Insomnia. Because not only is it a Robin Williams film, it's also a Christopher Nolan film, and one that I think most people have never even watched. Let's see. Where are we going here? Mahir Haku, who writes, will movies/TV shows do epidemic-themed episodes? Oh, I have no doubt. Once we get this in our rearview mirror, everybody's going to be making, Law and Order will have, they're all going to do it. Absolutely, they're 100% all going to do it, no doubt. Phil Corvelli writes, hey, John, Google the new Marvel heroes Snowflake and Safe Space. No, I don't think I'm going to do that. Christian Corbett writes, just watch Traffic. The cast is insane. Listen, hold on a second. Let me run this down here. From 2000, it's Michael Douglas, Benicio del Toro. But listen to this. Why won't my page load? Anyway, okay, so Traffic, which is amazing. By the way, directed by Steven Soderbergh. Some people think this is his best movie. Benicio del Toro, Emilio Rivera, who's great. Michael Douglas, Eric Collins. Hold on a second. Let me bring up more, because I'm sure this is probably like in something stupid, like in the order of appearance and stuff like that. Don Cheadle, Don Snell. I'm forgetting all the rest. And unfortunately, IMDb has put like Topher Grace was even in that. I totally forgot Topher Grace. Catherine Zeta-Jones, which I believe is where Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones met, was on that set. I believe that's where they hooked up. James Brolin. There was more. Harry Reid, Barbara Boxer, Steve Bauer, Dennis Quaid, Clifton Collins Jr. We just talked about Clifton Collins Jr. the other day. Viola Davis. I feel like there's one more big one that I'm missing or that I'm forgetting. Benjamin Bratt was in it as well. Benjamin Bratt. Not only is the movie stacked with talent, it's like just one of the overall biggest casts you've ever seen. It is a huge, huge cast. Anyway, let's see. Chris Warden writes, while I think you probably meant it. While I think it does make sense to release the smaller budget of films direct to streaming with everything going on, but if I'm studios, I just push back all the big tentpole blockbusters. Oh, that's exactly what they need to do. And that's what they're doing. Because they understand Wonder Woman is not going to make $700 million if you put it out on VOD. And that's what it needs to make. They need that thing to make $700 million. And it will when it gets in theaters. So they are better off with those movies. Just, yes, they wasted a bunch of money on marketing already, but this is such a huge tentpole film, you can eat that. Other films that are much smaller, you gotta just bite the bullet and go straight to VOD. Again, these are ridiculously unique and ridiculously unprecedented circumstances that we're in right now. So up is down, left is right, dogs and cats living. Again, it's just the crazy time, and everybody is just trying to figure out what's the best thing they can do to try to make lemonade out of lemons. What's the best thing they can do to try to salvage something out of this? But with huge tentpoles like Wonder Woman, you don't salvage those. You push those off and you release them to get that theater money when it's time, Chris. So I completely agree with you there. Okay, next up, Bob Kowal writes, these challenging days recently reminded me of how the producers of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man had to scramble to remove the Twin Towers after the 9/11 attacks. I will tell you what. So a lot of people don't even know what Bob's talking about. The very first teaser trailer for the first Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, some of you might remember this, was you didn't even see Spider-Man in it, in most of the trailer. You didn't even see him. You didn't even know what it was a trailer for. The trailer starts with these bank robbers robbing a bank, right? And then it's all this action. They're escaping. They go up to the rooftop. They get into a helicopter and they make their escape. Aha! We got away with all the money, right? But then all of a sudden, their helicopter midair slams to a stop. And they're all like, what's going on? And then the camera pans back and they're caught in a giant spider web. A web that was strung between the two towers, between the World Trade Center buildings. So that was a very creative, really great first teaser trailer for it. Absolutely was. It was a great first teaser trailer. But obviously, between when that trailer came out and well before the movie came out, 9/11 happened and they had to scramble and get rid of that trailer. Some of you guys know, this is a true story. Some of you guys know that I am currently working on a documentary. I'm making a documentary right now on movie trailers, the history of movie trailers, the importance of movie trailers, how we as an audience interact with them today, that kind of stuff. So I'm making a documentary on trailers right now. And about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I actually had the privilege of sitting down with the owners of the company that made that trailer. It's true. I actually got to sit down and talk to the owners of the company. The name of the company is Aspect, is the Aspect Agency. They are a film marketing company. They're one of the big trailer companies. They're the oldest trailer company. I got to sat down and talk to the owners and their chief creative head. And it was pretty great. And so we were talking about, you guys are the ones who made that trailer. And I was like, yeah, we're the ones. And so it was pretty funny. It was pretty cool. Just a little side note. All right. Let's see. Where do we go? Chris Warden writes, there's just far too much money to be lost if they don't release the film. Oh, absolutely. No, it's financial suicide. It's not just far too much money to be lost. It's financial suicide. They'll lose tons of money, and they know that. Luke Wong writes, when going to the movies, your favorite showtime? My favorite showtime, I like a good 7 o'clock showtime. And the reason I prefer 7 o'clock showtime is because it gives you a chance. It's late enough that if you want to go out and do something first, you can. But I like, after coming out of a movie, going and getting drinks. I mean, for me, it's Diet Coke because I don't drink. But for me, I like going out and getting drinks or going to some place and grabbing a dessert or grabbing some appetizer or whatever, because I like being able to go out after the movie to sit down with whoever the person or persons that I've gone to a movie with to hang out and talk about the movie. And when you go to like a late show, like a 9:30 show, and the movie doesn't start till 10 at a 9:30 show, and then you're getting out of the theater like 11:30 or midnight, and I got to get up at 5 in the morning, and then blah, blah, blah. So I like a good 7 o'clock showtime. Okay. Lewis Allen writes, hey, John, Disney Plus is coming to the UK on Tuesday. That's awesome. So glad you guys are finally getting that. Apart from The Mandalorian, what do you recommend? That's part of the big thing. Look, the strength of Disney Plus right now is the library. I mean, that's the strength of it. I am a big fan of Jeff Goldblum's The World According to Jeff Goldblum. I like that a lot. They have a lot of good stuff. Black Panther just popped up on there. They got all the Star Wars movies. Yeah, but Disney Plus has been taking some criticism lately, and rightfully so, that, yeah, they came out of the gate with Mandalorian, but then they've had nothing. Yeah, they've had some smaller, quirky things that have been nice, but they've had nothing. I feel like Netflix every 2 weeks is launching something big and bold and new, and some new show of this or another season of that, blah, blah, blah. And Disney Plus, they came out of the gate with Mandalorian, and it's been crickets ever since. And yeah, so other than The Mandalorian, I have nothing really to recommend wholeheartedly, other than some cute little quirky stuff, much like The World According to Jeff Goldblum. I really do like that show. But a lot of people are liking The Imagineers. I haven't watched it yet myself, but I'm hearing some good things about it. But there's not a lot to recommend on it right now, other than library. And if you're into if you just want to watch a lot of the older stuff, boom, you're going to have a treasure trove of stuff to watch there, Lewis. Let's see. Lewis Allen writes, is there any film that has been delayed that you would pay to rent? I would pay to watch Bond or Black Widow tomorrow. Oh, sure. I would pay to watch any of them. Yeah. I'm a movie guy. I would absolutely. But I am rare. I am not the norm. But yeah, if they said, hey, you can watch Black Widow tomorrow for $60, I probably drop the $60. I also invite people over to watch it, so that'll hurt their bottom line. But yeah, that Bond, absolutely, sure. As long as the price wasn't ridiculous. Like, do I spend $60 to watch Black Widow? Maybe not 60. But yeah, I probably pay to watch any of them. Because I like movies. Mega Movies writes, happy birthday to one of the best. Gary, is it his birthday? Gary Oldman is one of the best. He can do anything. I mean, he can do horror. He can do fantasy. He can do deep drama. He can do period piece. He can do it all. He's just amazing and just one of the best, Gary. He was the best actor in the business to not have an Oscar. And then he played Winston Churchill, and now he's not. Now he's got his Oscar, but a well-deserved one as well. All right, Wayne Duchenrow writes, have you watched the Lonesome Dove TV miniseries starring Robert Duvall? When I was a kid, and I don't remember a lick about it. Starring Robert Duvall and Tommy Lee Jones. If so, thoughts, best Western ever. Let me bring it up, because it wasn't just those two. Let's see. Lonesome Dove. It wasn't just those two in it. I believe there were some other names in there as well. Danny Glover, Diane Lane, Robert Urich, who was huge for a while, D.B. Sweeney, Ricky Schroeder, Angelica Houston, Chris Cooper. I mean, Glenn Hidley, who was great. She was, of course, in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. She just passed away recently. Barry Tubb, Gavin O'Hare, Steve Buscemi was in it. Yeah, huge cast. Huge cast. But anyway, I was a kid. When the hell did this come out? Like, I was like just a young teenager at the time. And I remember I saw it, but I really don't remember much about it. For those of you who don't know anything about it, two former Texas Rangers renew their spirit of adventure as they and several other residents of a small Texas town join a cattle drive to the Montana Territory. But other than that, I remember very little about it. I gotta be honest, I remember very, very little about it. I should go revisit that at some point. Okay. Jay Master writes, one of two. Hey, John, Yesterday, I watched the Disney Insider, the new series on Disney Plus. It's really interesting taking you behind the scenes, and I highly recommend. My recommendations to watch on Disney Plus: Shop Class, hosted by Justin Long, and I do love Justin Long. Stargirl, Togo. I heard Togo's great. I heard that's actually really great. Diary of Future President, Disney Insider. I am very fascinated by Disney Insider. I think, you know what? I think today I'm going to go watch a little bit of that Disney Insider thing. I think I'm going to do that today. All right. Thanks for the recommendation on that, Jay Master. And again, Togo, what Jay was just recommending, Togo, it's supposed to be absolutely fantastic. So I got to give that one a shot as well. All right. Supreme Leader Scone writes, will Star Wars Celebration still happen this year? It's not. The more this goes, it's looking doubtful. It's looking doubtful. Now, when is it supposed to? It's supposed to be June? Hold on a second. Or August. Star Wars Celebration 20. It's supposed to be in Anaheim. The actual dates are supposed to be... It's August. It's late August. Yeah, you know what? It might. It might. It depends on how late this thing goes. Because if this thing goes into, like, say, the end of June, beginning of July, then maybe that just screws up too many people's travel plans. But... you know what? Late August? You know what? No, I'd say, you know, if I had to bet $5 on it, bet $5 on it, I would bet that yes, it'll still happen. If I had to bet $5, I wouldn't bet $100, but I would bet $5 on that it'll still happen. All right, let's see. Suthius writes, at gym, do you lift any or just focus on cardio? I do a bit of both. Like my routine is always the same. I go into the gym, I spend about 45 minutes on the treadmill, and then after about 45 minutes on the treadmill, I do a full body circuit. Now there are different times. Sometimes I'll do like one day is chest and shoulders day, one day is back and biceps day. And well, yeah, I've done that. But what I've really started I found I respond to better is just doing a full circuit. So literally every day I go in, I do about 45 minutes on the treadmill, and then I do, one set of back, pull downs, one set of seated rows, one set of bicep curls, one set of tricep extensions, one set of flatted bench press, one set of incline bench press, one set of squats, 2 sets of ab crunches, and then I just do it all really quick. I'm able to get just a full body workout, and I just find that's works for me a little bit better as a routine. Obviously, I'm no Adonis, so I mean, take that for what it will, but I just found that that's a routine that works well for me. All right. Casinema Reviews writes, where'd he go? Where'd Casinema go? There it is. Casinema Reviews. Oh, and this is the last question today, guys. Been almost a 3-hour show today. No, 2.5 hour. It's been a 2.5 hour show because we started at 9:30, right? Yeah. So 2.5 hour show. Wrapping it up here with Casinema Reviews. Final question. Onward is available on Vudu, but only to buy, not rent. Okay, it is only to buy. See, I thought it was unlike Invisible Man, which is only to rent for $20. Onward is available to buy, not rent. And then on April 3rd, Onward will be on Disney Plus. So thanks for that heads up on that, Casinema Reviews. I appreciate that. And all right, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much, guys, for being here and making this show a part of your day. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys are all doing well. Remember, continue to do the smart things, guys. Taking care of yourself, but remember, by taking care of yourself, you're also taking care of other people. Because you may not be worried if you get sick, because you might think, oh, I'm healthy, I'm all that kind of stuff. I'll be fine if I get it. That's fine that you think that, but remember, if you get sick, you also become a transmitter. And you could get other people sick. So take care of yourself, and by doing so, take care of other people as well, guys. Use this opportunity. Dive into some good books. Get into some classic movies. Read. Get on YouTube and look up tutorials on things you've been meaning to learn. Take some creative advantage of this time, guys. Don't forget, we will be back again, of course, on Monday with the John Campea Show. Me and Robert Meyer Burnett will be here. I'm sure we're going to talk more about the Ahsoka stuff, about all this other news that's coming out right now. There's a lot of stuff for us to cover. We're going to be talking about that on Monday. Make sure you guys join us then. And I think either today or tomorrow, you'll probably see Ann and I doing a little bit more play and chat. You'll probably see Ann and I, whether we're playing Mario Kart. I think Ann wants to kick my ass in Mario Party, or maybe some other things. So come on, if you see us streaming, come on over and say hello as well. All right, guys. that will do it for me for this installment of Open Mic. Thank you guys. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.